Have you ever wondered what history might be hiding? Those moments, those events that slipped through the cracks of time, forgotten by the world yet lingering in the shadows, waiting to be remembered? In every page of the past, there are stories left untold, fragments of a truth that remain just out of reach. It's as if something or someone decided we weren't meant to know. But what if these lost chapters of history weren't lost by accident? What if the very fabric of time itself is keeping them hidden? Tonight, we delve into 3 hours of eerily forgotten history. Moments that defy explanation, that feel both familiar and foreign, as if they were always meant to be discovered, but only by those daring enough to listen. From strange disappearances to inexplicable events that should have been recorded, these are the stories that challenge everything we think we know about the past. Why were they erased? Who decided they were too dangerous to remember? And how did they slip from our grasp so easily? So, sit back, relax, and let's dive deeper into the mystery. In the heart of the ancient world, hidden beneath layers of earth, sand, and time, there exists the shadow of an empire. A civilization so elusive that it has left no name behind, no definitive record of its rise or fall. It is as if this empire never wanted to be remembered. Its ruins stand scattered across vast stretches of desert and jungle, often overlooked or misunderstood by those who find them. Yet, in the traces they left behind, we glimpse an extraordinary story, one that continues to unravel with each new discovery. Imagine walking through the remains of a city, its stone streets crumbled by centuries of neglect. In the distance, broken obelisks and half-buried statues rise like silent sentinels against a muted sky. The architecture is both familiar and foreign, resembling elements from various known cultures, yet possessing a peculiar style all its own. This is no ordinary ancient site. It is a place whose name has long since faded, a civilization whose identity seems determined to remain out of reach. The first glimpses of this empire came in the early 20th century, when archaeologists and explorers stumbled upon sites deep in the Middle East and Central Asia, places once thought to be uninhabited or unexplored. At first, these discoveries seemed like isolated curiosities. A few unusual artifacts here, a strange inscription there. Yet, as more sites were uncovered, the pattern became clear. They were connected. But connected how? To what civilization? Who built these monuments? And why was there no mention of them in any historical records? One of the most striking aspects of these ruins is their scale and sophistication. The craftsmanship of the structures and the precision of the tools found buried within them suggest a society far more advanced than its neighbors. Large, intricately carved stone monuments bear symbols and markings that resemble no known language, offering only cryptic clues to the identity of their creators. The mystery deepens as these symbols appear in multiple, disparate locations. Vast deserts, dense jungles, and isolated mountain ranges, without any clear explanation of how they were connected. In these ruins, scholars found objects that seemed far beyond the technological capabilities of the time. Weapons of remarkable craftsmanship, intricate pottery, and tools of unknown function were unearthed, suggesting that the people who created them had access to resources and knowledge well ahead of their time. Yet there is no record of this civilization, no surviving texts, no detailed accounts, no names of kings or rulers. What could explain this? Historians have long been puzzled by this absence. In cultures such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, we find copious records of kings and queens, their deeds chronicled in stone and clay tablets. Yet, with this empire, there are no records, nothing to tell us the story of its rise, its rule, or its fall. No texts, no inscriptions, no royal lineage. Instead, what remains are these fragmented ruins, each piece seemingly telling a story of extraordinary knowledge and influence, yet without context. The question then becomes, why? Why has history failed to record the name of this empire? Some scholars suggest that the empire may have deliberately erased its own identity, leaving no trace of its rulers or its past. But if they sought to vanish from history, why leave behind such a wealth of artifacts? Why not simply remove all evidence of their existence? One theory is that the empire was a secret society, one that purposely sought to hide itself from the world. Perhaps its rulers believed that the knowledge they possessed was too dangerous, too powerful to be shared with the rest of humanity. Could it be that they saw themselves as guardians of a forbidden knowledge, a wisdom so profound that its loss, or its misuse, could unravel the fabric of civilization itself? Some have even speculated that this lost empire may have held the key to advanced technologies, or perhaps an understanding of the natural world that was far ahead of its time. What then was the cost of this knowledge? Could it have been so overwhelming that it was buried, both physically and metaphorically, in order to protect the future? There are those who speculate that the empire's sudden disappearance may have been the result of a catastrophe, an event so catastrophic that it wiped the civilization from existence. Some suggest that it may have been a natural disaster, an earthquake, a flood, or a volcanic eruption that caused the empire to collapse so suddenly that no one was left to record its end. Others wonder if the downfall of the empire was more human in nature, a war so destructive that it eradicated all traces of the society, leaving only fragmented ruins in its wake. But if this was the case, why is there no evidence of such a disaster? Why, in the ruins, do we find no signs of battle? No walls breached by weapons, no graves of fallen soldiers. Instead, we find only the quiet remnants of a civilization that seems to have vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions in its wake. There is another, more speculative theory, that the empire never truly disappeared at all. What if it transformed, adapting into a new form, hidden away from the rest of the world? Some have suggested that the people of this forgotten empire may have gone underground, preserving their knowledge and power in secret societies, waiting for the right moment to emerge once more. Could it be that their influence lingers in the shadows of history, shaping events from behind the scenes? But if this is the case, then why is there no definitive evidence to support this claim? Why, after centuries of investigation, has the empire's name never surfaced in the historical record? Could it be that the truth is hidden just beneath the surface, waiting for someone to uncover it? What is certain is that the story of this empire is far from over. With each new discovery, each new fragment of the past uncovered, the mystery deepens. The evidence suggests that there was once an empire of extraordinary power and knowledge, one whose name has been lost to time. But the reasons for its obscurity remain elusive, and the questions continue to mount. What secrets lie hidden in the ruins? What was this empire, and why has it been erased from history? These are the questions that remain unanswered, lingering in the silence of the past. The empire with no name may be gone, but its legacy, whatever it may be, still waits, buried beneath the sands of time, waiting for someone to uncover the truth. As we journey further into the strange and forgotten corners of history, we find ourselves faced with a phenomenon so peculiar, so unsettling, that it defies all conventional understanding. Imagine standing in the midst of an ancient city, the hustle and bustle of daily life unfolding around you. People going about their routines, merchants selling wares, children playing in the streets. And then, in an instant, everything changes. The sky begins to darken. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed, the light begins to fade. What was once the warmth of the sun now becomes an eerie, unnatural twilight. And then, without warning, the sun vanishes altogether. This was not a myth or a legend. It was a real event. An event that shook entire civilizations and left them grasping for an explanation that, to this day, has never been fully understood. The day the sun disappeared is a story told across various cultures, a phenomenon recorded in ancient texts and oral histories. In some cultures it was seen as a sign from the gods, an omen of things to come. In others it was a terrifying and inexplicable event that left a mark on the collective consciousness of those who witnessed it. The most famous account of this event comes from the ancient city of Ugarit, located in what is now modern-day Syria. Ugarit was a thriving port city, its people deeply embedded in trade, culture, and religion. They had long relied on the cycles of the sun, the seasons, and the stars to guide their lives. And yet, one fateful day, these natural cycles were shattered. Ancient tablets discovered in the ruins of Ugarit contain records of what has been described as a darkness that fell upon the land. The texts tell of an inexplicable period of time when the sun ceased to rise, plunging the city into a prolonged, unnatural night. The people of Ugarit, like countless other civilizations before and after them, would have been left in utter confusion and fear. How could the sun, which had risen reliably every day for as long as anyone could remember, simply disappear? According to the records, the darkness lasted for several hours, leaving the people to wonder if the world was coming to an end. Was it an eclipse? Some historians have suggested this, pointing to the possibility of a rare solar eclipse that might have been misinterpreted by ancient observers. However, the Ugaritic texts describe a darkness that was far deeper and more profound than any eclipse would create. No eclipse, no matter how dramatic, could bring about such a complete and persistent absence of light. In fact, ancient accounts from other cultures, such as those from the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians, describe similar events. Darkness that stretched far beyond the typical phenomenon of a solar eclipse, even causing panic and fear among those who experienced it. But if it wasn't a natural eclipse, what could it have been? Could it have been a once-in-a-lifetime astronomical event, a celestial anomaly that modern science has yet to fully explain? Some theorists have pointed to the possibility of a comet or asteroid passing close enough to the Earth to block out the sun's light, casting a shadow across the land. It's worth considering that an event of this magnitude could have been witnessed by multiple ancient cultures in different parts of the world, leaving a shared sense of awe and terror in its wake. However, no such comet or asteroid event is known to have occurred at that time, making this theory highly speculative. Others have suggested a more dramatic, even otherworldly, explanation, one that ventures beyond the realm of known science. Some propose that the sun's disappearance was the result of a massive solar flare, an event that would have unleashed immense amounts of radiation, affecting the Earth's atmosphere and causing a temporary disruption in the natural order. While solar flares are certainly a known phenomenon, the intensity of such an event would likely have been far more destructive than the ancient records suggest. There is no indication that the sun's disappearance was followed by the kind of widespread devastation one might expect from such a catastrophic event. The possibility of a cosmic or atmospheric event does not fully account for the profound psychological impact this occurrence had on ancient societies. The loss of the sun, the very source of light and life, would have been seen as a direct challenge to the natural order. It would have been a terrifying, incomprehensible event, something that no civilization, no matter how advanced, could have prepared for. What was worse was that, after the darkness passed, the sun returned. Life went on, And yet, for those who had experienced it, the world would never be quite the same. The sun's disappearance lingered in the collective memory of these ancient cultures, leaving behind not just a sense of fear, but a deep, unsettling question: what if the sun could disappear again? Perhaps the most curious aspect of this event is not the theories that try to explain it, but the lingering sense that something much deeper was at play. It's as if the disappearance of the sun was a turning point, a reminder that despite humanity's understanding of the world, there are forces far beyond our control or comprehension. The event is recorded in ancient texts, but these records often come with a sense of awe and reverence, suggesting that the people who witnessed it struggled to find words that could accurately capture the enormity of what had occurred. For some, the sun's disappearance was not just a cosmic anomaly, but a profound spiritual or metaphysical moment, an event that spoke to the fragility of life, the impermanence of nature, and perhaps even the nature of reality itself. As we look back at these ancient accounts, we find ourselves asking the same questions that the people of Ugarit and other ancient civilizations must have asked. What caused this strange darkness? Was it a natural phenomenon that we are simply unable to fully understand? Or was it something more? Could it have been a warning, an omen from the gods, or a message from the universe that we are not yet equipped to decipher? Perhaps we will never know the full truth behind the day the sun disappeared. Perhaps the answers are lost to time, buried beneath the layers of history that we are only now beginning to understand. But one thing is certain: the event remains one of the most intriguing and unsettling mysteries of the ancient world, a puzzle that continues to elude even the most dedicated investigators. The day the sun disappeared is a reminder that, no matter how much we learn, there are always mysteries just beyond our grasp, waiting to be uncovered, or perhaps waiting to remain hidden forever. As we continue our journey into the forgotten corners of history, we turn our attention to a place that has long captured the imagination of adventurers, historians, and archaeologists alike. A vast, seemingly endless expanse of desert, where the wind whispers through ancient ruins and time itself seems to stand still. Beneath the sands, hidden from view, lie cities that were once bustling centers of life, now forgotten and buried by the shifting tides of history. These are the forgotten cities beneath the sand, long-lost civilizations, their names erased by time, their stories buried under layers of earth, waiting to be rediscovered. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast desert, the sun setting in the distance, casting long shadows across the dunes. The air is dry, thick with the scent of sand and stone. For miles in every direction, the land is barren, seemingly empty. Yet, as the wind shifts the dunes, small hints of something beneath the surface emerge. Fragments of pottery, broken walls, the faint outline of a forgotten road. It is here, beneath the shifting sands, that ancient cities have slumbered for millennia, their grandeur and history obscured by the very forces of nature that once sustained them. One of the most famous of these lost cities is the ancient city of Ubar, often referred to as the Atlantis of the Sands. According to legends that stretch back thousands of years, Ubar was a thriving metropolis, rich in wealth and culture, located somewhere in the vast Rub al-Khali, or Empty Quarter, one of the most inhospitable deserts in the world. Descriptions of Ubar vary, but it is often depicted as a city of opulence, its walls adorned with gold and precious gems, its streets lined with towering palaces and temples. The city was said to be a hub for trade, with caravans bringing exotic goods from far-flung corners of the world. Yet, as with so many ancient tales, the city's existence was thought to be nothing more than myth. For centuries, Ubar was dismissed as a fantastical story, a mere product of Arabian folklore. But in the 19th century, explorers began to uncover strange ruins deep in the heart of the empty quarter. Ruins that seemed to fit the description of Ubar with uncanny precision. The discovery of these remains reignited the mystery of the lost city, and the search for Ubar has continued ever since. Despite numerous expeditions and technological advances, the exact location of Ubar remains elusive, with some claiming it was swallowed by the very sands that once sustained it. This story of a city lost to the desert is not unique. Across the globe, in deserts from Africa to the Americas, similar tales have emerged. Stories of once thriving civilizations that vanished, their remains now hidden beneath shifting dunes. The city of Dul-Qarnayn, mentioned in early Islamic texts, is said to have been a great metropolis swallowed by the sands of time, much like Ubar. In the Americas, the ancestral Puebloans built grand cities in what is now the southwestern United States, only for their once great urban centers to be abandoned, their fates still a mystery to this day. What happened to these cities? Why did they disappear so suddenly, leaving behind only the remnants of their grandeur? Theories abound as to why these cities were lost to the sands, with most scholars pointing to environmental factors as a primary cause. Desertification, shifting climate patterns, and the depletion of vital resources such as water may have played a significant role in the decline and eventual abandonment of these once great urban centers. The survival of civilizations in harsh desert environments is a precarious balancing act, and even the most sophisticated societies can fall victim to environmental change. The collapse of Ubar, for instance, is sometimes attributed to a sudden and catastrophic environmental disaster, a massive drought, or perhaps a natural event such as an earthquake that left the city vulnerable to the encroaching sands. But, as with many mysteries of the past, not all explanations are so grounded in the natural world. Some have suggested that the fall of these cities was a result of a more human-driven force: warfare, political upheaval, or invasion. Could the inhabitants of Ubar or any of these other lost cities have been overrun by enemies? Perhaps their once great cities were sacked and left to decay, their wealth stolen and their knowledge lost. The idea of a city swallowed by war is not a new one, and many civilizations throughout history have met their end at the hands of invading forces. However, the absence of clear evidence of conflict in many of these ruins casts doubt on this theory. Then, there are those who entertain more speculative and even fringe ideas. Could these cities have been abandoned due to a sudden technological or cultural shift? Some suggest that the people of these civilizations may have experienced a radical change in their way of life, perhaps even a form of collective amnesia. In this theory, the inhabitants of the lost cities might have deliberately chosen to abandon their sophisticated urban centers in favor of a simpler, more isolated existence. Was it a collective decision to retreat from the complexities of urban life, or was it driven by something more mysterious, an event that forced these civilizations to leave their once grand cities behind? Another intriguing possibility is that the ruins we see today are not all that remains of these ancient cities. Some believe that what we are witnessing is the aftermath of a more extraordinary event, an event so monumental that it altered the very course of history. Could these cities have been destroyed by a forgotten, advanced technology, a force so powerful and incomprehensible that its traces have long since been erased from collective memory? While this idea remains purely speculative, it taps into a larger, unanswered question. What might we have lost to time, and what might still be hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? The mysteries of the forgotten cities beneath the sand are many, and as we look deeper into these enigmas, we are forced to confront the limits of our knowledge. Despite the advancements of modern archaeology and technology, these cities remain elusive. Locked in the sands of time, their secrets buried beneath centuries of earth and shifting winds. What caused these cities to vanish? Was it nature, human hands, or something more? Perhaps the answers lie buried in the sands, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Or perhaps they are lost forever, their stories left untold, existing only in fragments and whispers of the past. As we reflect on these mysteries, we are reminded of the vastness of history and of how much remains hidden just beneath the surface. As the quiet hum of history continues to unfold before us, we shift our gaze to a place that, for centuries, has remained wrapped in mystery. A place where the night sky itself seems to hold the answers to questions that have long puzzled humankind. Here, deep in the heart of the ancient world, beneath the cool shadow of a hollowed hill, a group of astronomers once gazed up at the heavens. But unlike the astronomers of the ancient civilizations we are familiar with, those of Mesopotamia, Egypt, or Greece, these stargazers left behind no written records, no grand structures etched with celestial knowledge. Instead, all we have are the faint remnants of their observatories buried beneath the earth. Known only in whispers and fragments of myth, the astronomers of the Hollow Hill are a name that stirs both wonder and uncertainty. The story begins in a remote part of the world, where a hill, seemingly no different from the countless other natural formations that dot the landscape, holds a strange secret within its core. It is here that, according to some ancient accounts, a group of astronomers, possibly an entire school of thought, sought to unlock the secrets of the stars. But unlike most cultures of their time, they did not build grand temples or erect towering stone monuments to the heavens. Instead, they worked in silence beneath the earth itself, creating intricate hidden observatories, tunnels, chambers, and passages carved deep into the hill. The hill itself, with its gentle slope and unassuming appearance, is no more than a quiet backdrop to the mystery it conceals. Yet, beneath its surface, in the subterranean chambers carved into the rock, ancient artifacts have been discovered. Tools of celestial observation, yet curiously devoid of the kind of formal records or inscriptions one would expect from such an advanced group of thinkers. What did these astronomers know, and why did they choose to work in such secrecy? What were they trying to understand about the universe that the cultures of their time, with their grand temples and star charts, did not? One of the most fascinating aspects of the site is the architecture of the Hollow Hill itself. The chambers within are arranged with startling precision, as though they were designed to capture specific celestial events: the rising of a particular star, the phases of the moon, or the movement of the planets through the night sky. Evidence suggests that the site was used for centuries, if not millennia, to observe the heavens. Yet, no written records have been found that directly explain the purpose of these observatories. No inscriptions of the astronomers' names, no accounts of their discoveries, no hints of what knowledge they may have uncovered. What we do know is that the hill is aligned with specific celestial bodies, and that the layout of the chambers seems to mirror the patterns of the stars. There are whispers of ancient texts that have since been lost or hidden, that speak of the Watchers of the Night, a group of astronomers who sought to study the movements of the stars in a way that transcended mere observation. These astronomers were not just mapping the heavens, they were attempting to decode the cosmic patterns that governed not only the sky, but the very forces that shaped life on Earth itself. But why the secrecy? Why did these astronomers who possessed such sophisticated knowledge choose to work in isolation, far from the prying eyes of other civilizations? Some have suggested that they were not merely seeking to observe the stars, but to harness their power, perhaps through an understanding of the unseen forces of the universe that modern science has yet to fully comprehend. Were these astronomers searching for a deeper truth, one that connected the stars to human consciousness, to life and death, to time itself? And if so, why has this knowledge been so carefully concealed, hidden away in the chambers beneath the hill? Some theories point to the possibility that these astronomers were part of a larger, lost civilization. A civilization that predated the well-known cultures of ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley. This civilization may have possessed knowledge so advanced, so far beyond the understanding of their contemporaries, that it was considered too dangerous, too powerful to be shared. Could these astronomers have belonged to a group tasked with preserving this knowledge, ensuring that it would not fall into the wrong hands? It is a tantalizing thought, one that suggests that there may be entire chapters of human history, chapters that have been deliberately erased or lost, that could shed light on the true nature of these Watchers of the Night. Yet, for all the speculation, the truth remains elusive. Some have suggested that the astronomers of the Hollow Hill may have been attempting to commune with higher powers, perhaps seeking knowledge from beings beyond this world, through a form of star worship or cosmic communication. Others believe that they may have been seeking a scientific understanding of the forces that govern the universe, perhaps through means that are now lost to us, methods that involved an integration of mathematics, astronomy, and perhaps even esoteric practices. Could they have discovered something, some cosmic principle or universal law that we are still unaware of today? The absence of concrete evidence, no written texts, no clear inscriptions, no direct historical accounts, has led some to speculate that the astronomers of the Hollow Hill were not just keepers of secret knowledge, but the inheritors of an even older tradition. Perhaps they were the last remnants of a forgotten age, a time when humans still communicated directly with the stars, when the mysteries of the universe were not contained within scientific formulas, but were felt in the bones, known through experience, and passed down through oral tradition. Yet there are those who, while acknowledging the astronomical sophistication of these ancient peoples, suggest a more grounded explanation. Perhaps these astronomers were simply seeking practical knowledge, the ability to track the movements of the stars and planets to predict the changing seasons, the best times for planting and harvesting, or the tides of the oceans. If this was the case, why the elaborate construction of the observatories beneath the earth? Why the secrecy, the hidden nature of the chambers? What were they truly searching for? And so, the mystery of the astronomers of the Hollow Hill remains, an enigma that continues to challenge our understanding of ancient knowledge and the hidden forces that may have shaped our world. We may never fully understand what they knew, or why they chose to hide their work from the world. But one thing is certain: the hill and its secrets remain, a silent testament to the long-forgotten minds that once gazed at the stars and pondered the vastness of the universe. What did they discover? And what truths may still be buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? Only time will tell. As we turn the page of history, we move from one mystery to another, this time shifting our gaze to the quiet, expansive oceans that have long carried the echoes of lost stories. Here, amidst the endless waves and the crests of forgotten horizons, lies the strange tale of the vanished sailors of the silent Armada. It's a story where the sea, with all its vastness and unpredictability, holds its breath, guarding the secrets of those who once sailed its depths. The Silent Armada, as it has come to be known in whispers and fragments of ancient texts, was not just a fleet of ships. It was an expedition, a journey into the unknown, launched by an empire that has since faded into the mists of history. This fleet, composed of dozens of vessels, set out from a forgotten shore, their sails billowing in the wind as they navigated through uncharted waters. The Armada was said to be on a mission of great importance, an exploration of distant lands, perhaps even a quest for knowledge or resources in territories beyond the reach of their civilization. But the story takes a strange turn. According to the few records that remain, the fleet set sail and then nothing. For years, there was no word from the ships, no sightings, no messages from the admiral or his crew. As time passed, the fate of the Silent Armada became one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. What happened to them? Where did they go? And why, in a time when communication across vast distances was possible through signals, messengers, and emissaries, did no one hear from the fleet again? The official records, when they exist at all, are sparse. A few scattered references hint at an expedition sent from a distant empire, perhaps from the far reaches of the Mediterranean, or from some lost civilization in Asia, but they do little to clarify the details. There are no definitive answers, only the silence of the sea. A silence that has endured for centuries, wrapped in the mist of conjecture. What makes the disappearance of the Silent Armada so perplexing is that, according to some sources, the fleet was never officially reported as lost. There was no great storm, no known shipwreck, no clash with enemies that would account for the disappearance of its members. The ships simply vanished. The few surviving records speak of whispers, reports from later seafarers, vague mentions in the logs of other voyages that suggested the Armada's ships were seen drifting on the horizon, but no one who came near them could explain why their crews were absent. It was as though they had simply evaporated from the world. In some cases, strange markings were reported on the decks of abandoned ships, carvings and symbols unlike anything seen in other civilizations. Were these signs left behind by a crew driven to madness by some unseen force? Perhaps the isolation of the open ocean, or by a discovery so profound that it could not be understood? Or were they the marks of a culture whose understanding of the world was far more advanced, and whose sudden disappearance still holds an unspeakable secret? There are theories that suggest the fleet may have been the victims of an ancient and highly advanced form of technology. Perhaps a technology lost to time and destroyed before its secrets could be passed down. Could the Armada have encountered some form of ancient weapon, an energy source so powerful that it incapacitated the ships and their crew, erasing them from history? Some proponents of this theory point to reports of strange phenomena in the skies just before the fleet's disappearance. Unexplained lights, shapes, and even the brief appearance of massive, shadowy forms hovering over the ocean. These accounts, though fragmentary and unclear, raise the possibility of something beyond natural causes, a mystery of the cosmic or supernatural kind. Others suggest that the fleet's fate may be tied to a more earthly force, piracy. It's possible that the Armada was set upon by unknown aggressors, pirates or rival explorers, and that their disappearance was a deliberate act of sabotage. But why would no one record such an attack? Why, after all this time, is there no definitive evidence of such an event? The silence around their disappearance only deepens the mystery. Perhaps even more unsettling is the theory that the fleet did not disappear at all, but instead arrived in a place so remote, so isolated from the rest of the world, that it simply became unknown. Could the Silent Armada have reached lands that were so distant, so outside the knowledge of the civilizations of their time, that their arrival was never recorded? And if they did find such a place, what would have happened to their sailors? Was the Armada's fate sealed when they arrived in a place where the outside world would never know? One more theory, perhaps the most speculative, points to the idea that the fleet may have encountered an ancient and unfathomable force, something beyond human comprehension. There are those who believe that the sailors of the Silent Armada were drawn into a realm beyond our world, that they crossed into a dimension where the rules of time, space, and even reality itself no longer applied. If this were true, then their disappearance would not have been a death, but a transition into a place that humans can neither understand nor visit. Some even suggest that the markings and strange symbols left on the ships were an attempt by the crew to record their encounter with an intelligence that existed beyond the boundaries of the known world, an intelligence that may still be waiting, watching, for the right moment to reveal itself again. And still, there are those who dismiss all of these theories, focusing instead on the simple idea that the fleet was simply lost in the way so many other fleets throughout history have been lost. The sea, as vast as it is, can hide 1,000 secrets. The ocean's depths are vast and largely unexplored. Perhaps the Silent Armada, like so many others before it, simply fell victim to the unpredictable nature of the sea, a storm, a navigational error, or some other natural disaster that erased them from history without a trace. The loss may have been nothing more than an accident, the most ordinary of tragedies, made extraordinary by the passage of time. Yet, as we look back on the whispers and the faded fragments of the Silent Armada, we cannot help but wonder, why has history forgotten them so completely? Why have we only heard fleeting echoes of their existence, and why have no answers been offered up? The truth remains buried in the sands of time, and the sailors who once set out on that fateful voyage seem destined to remain lost to the ages. What knowledge did they take with them, and what secrets did the sea claim when it swallowed their fleet? The mystery of the Silent Armada endures, its answer still hidden beneath the waves, just out of reach, waiting to be uncovered. As we leave the vast and silent oceans behind us, our journey takes us back to the land, to a forgotten conflict that has left its mark on history in ways that remain shrouded in mystery. A war so deeply buried in the annals of time that it seems to have vanished without a trace, the war that no one remembers. It is a conflict so elusive that even the most dedicated historians have struggled to uncover its true origins and its far-reaching consequences. Yet, the evidence suggests that it was a war like no other, one that shaped the course of civilizations, though no one can recall its name. Imagine, for a moment, the ancient world, vast, interconnected, and constantly shifting. Empires rise and fall, cities burn, and new alliances are forged in the wake of violence and power struggles. Among these many clashes, this particular war stands out as a strange anomaly. It was fought not with the tools we might expect from a brutal conflict, sword and shield, chariots and spears, but with tactics and methods that remain difficult to comprehend. This war was fought without the usual markers, the clear lines of division that separate one side from the other, and it seems that the victors, if there were any, left behind no lasting legacy. The most puzzling aspect of the war that no one remembers is that it's almost as if it never existed in the first place. While there are numerous references to skirmishes, strange artifacts, and unearthed remnants that suggest such a war took place, there are no definitive accounts from the era that explicitly detail it. No grand battles etched in the records, no monumental victories celebrated in song or stone. What we have instead are fragmented pieces, like shards of a broken mirror, that only hint at the scale and impact of this conflict. Ancient texts, written centuries after the supposed war, occasionally mention an unseen conflict or the shadowed war. These vague allusions are often dismissed by scholars as metaphorical or symbolic, but some historians believe that these references may hold a deeper truth, one that has been concealed by time or even by those who lived through it. What was this shadowed war, and why did it leave so little trace in the historical record? One of the few concrete pieces of evidence we have comes from ancient archaeological sites that suggest entire cities were destroyed, not by invaders or natural disasters, but by some force that left no trace of battle. ruins have been uncovered where the traditional signs of war, burned walls, weapons, and remnants of battles are absent. Instead, there are signs of a different kind of destruction. Buildings that have collapsed inward, strange impressions in the earth, and artifacts that appear to have been suddenly abandoned, as if the inhabitants vanished mid-action. This leads some scholars to speculate that this war, whatever its nature, was fought in a way that made it almost impossible to record. Could it be that this war was fought in secret, perhaps as a covert conflict between shadowy powers, waged without the need for public acknowledgement? The absence of written records, the lack of battlefield accounts, could all point to the possibility that this was a war fought behind closed doors, perhaps even between rival factions within the same empire or civilization. The fact that these ancient powers could remain hidden from the public eye, keeping the conflict away from the knowledge of their people, suggests that they possessed not only immense power, but also a mastery of secrecy that kept the war's existence from being known. There are some who theorize that the war that no one remembers could have been a conflict fought through subtle means, psychological warfare, espionage, and influence, without the bloodshed and dramatic confrontations we typically associate with war. Some suggest that it might have been a battle for control over intangible assets, knowledge, trade routes, or access to resources that could not be easily traced or recorded. This would explain why the war's effects are difficult to pinpoint, as the lines of battle were not drawn in the usual way, and the consequences were perhaps felt in more subtle shifts in power, culture, and influence. And yet, other theories propose something more fantastical. What if this war was not fought between armies, but between ideologies or even forces of nature themselves? Could it have been a conflict over something as intangible as cosmic knowledge, an ancient battle for understanding the mysteries of the universe? Some speculative accounts suggest that this war may have involved knowledge so powerful, so dangerous, that it had to be hidden from the world to prevent its misuse. Could these ancient powers have been fighting over access to such knowledge, and if so, what was the nature of that knowledge? Was it a secret technology, a lost science, or perhaps a mystical understanding that could alter the fabric of reality itself? One of the most fascinating aspects of the war that no one remembers is the eerie silence that surrounds it. Unlike other major wars in history, where battles are fought in the open and leave behind physical scars, ruins, memorials, records of triumph and loss, this war seems to have disappeared without leaving any permanent mark on the historical landscape. Some historians believe that this lack of evidence is deliberate, suggesting that the powers involved in the conflict went to great lengths to erase any trace of it. Could this have been a deliberate act of concealment? A war fought with the express purpose of leaving no trace for future generations to uncover. It is also worth considering the possibility that the war's memory was erased, not by the victors, but by the defeated. Perhaps the powers that lost the war sought to ensure that no record of their failure would ever see the light of day. In such a scenario, the victors would have had every incentive to keep the memory of the war buried, ensuring that their role in the conflict remained obscured, and that their true motivations and actions were hidden from the world. In this way, the war would remain a shadow in the records, a gap in history that may never be filled. Still, as we continue to search for answers, we are left to wonder, what was the true nature of this forgotten conflict? Was it a covert battle fought with methods that remain beyond our understanding? Or was it a struggle between ideologies and powers so secretive that they intentionally erased all memory of it? Could the war have been over something far beyond the scope of ordinary human concerns? Something that, to this day, we can scarcely imagine? The silence surrounding the war that no one remembers suggests that the answers, if they exist at all, lie hidden somewhere in the forgotten corners of history. There may be more to this enigmatic conflict than we can currently comprehend, and perhaps it is not just the battle itself that has been lost, but the knowledge and consequences it left behind. What truths are still buried beneath the layers of time? Only time, and perhaps a future discovery, will tell. As we continue to weave through the tapestry of history, we now find ourselves following the winding path of a river, one that has baffled explorers, historians, and geologists alike for centuries. This river, however, does not flow as nature intended. It is known as the river that changed direction, a phenomenon that defies logic, and to this day, no satisfactory explanation has been given for its inexplicable course change. Imagine standing at the banks of this once ordinary river, its waters gliding lazily beneath the vast sky, carving its path through the landscape. For centuries, this river followed a predictable, unyielding course, as rivers are wont to do. It nourished the surrounding lands, provided routes for trade, and served as a boundary for empires, just as rivers have done throughout the ages. It was a river like any other, until one day it was not. Historical records tell of a time, thousands of years ago, when this river underwent a dramatic and unexplained shift in its flow. The water that once moved in one direction suddenly began to flow in the opposite way, completely reversing its course. The implications of this change were immense. Its waters no longer reached the same fertile plains, and communities that had once thrived along its banks were forced to adapt or perish. Entire ecosystems were disrupted. Trade routes that had been established for centuries were cut off, and the lives of countless people were altered forever. At first, this shift seemed like a natural disaster, something that might be explained by a sudden geological event, perhaps an earthquake or a shift in the land itself. But no such event was recorded. No seismic tremors, no landslides, no obvious cause. The river simply changed its direction, as though it had been guided by an unseen force. And despite the best efforts of scholars and researchers over the years, no one has been able to fully explain why. Many theories have been proposed over the centuries, but they all failed to provide a definitive answer. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the river's course was altered by a series of geological shifts, a sudden upheaval in the Earth's crust that redirected the flow of the water. Such events are not entirely unheard of. There are known instances of rivers changing course due to natural occurrences, such as the formation of new mountain ranges, the eruption of volcanic islands, or the collapse of subterranean chambers. But in the case of this river, no conclusive evidence of such a geological event has ever been found. This leads us to the more speculative theories, which suggest that something beyond natural forces could have been at play. Some believe that the change in the river's direction was the result of human intervention, an ancient, long-lost civilization that harnessed the power of water in ways we cannot even begin to comprehend. Could they have redirected the river's flow intentionally? Ancient civilizations were known to construct incredible waterworks, such as aqueducts and dams, and even redirect rivers for agricultural or strategic purposes. But to change the course of an entire river, such a feat would have required technology far beyond what we understand from historical records. Then, there are those who entertain even stranger possibilities, suggesting that the river's shift was the result of forces not bound by the laws of nature as we know them. Could it have been the result of an ancient, undiscovered energy source, a power that could manipulate the landscape itself? Could the river's course change have been an artifact of an ancient civilization's scientific achievements, so advanced that it was lost to time? Another theory that has captured the imagination of some researchers is that the river was altered due to some kind of cosmic event. They propose that a sudden change in the Earth's magnetic field, or the impact of a celestial object, such as a comet or asteroid, could have disturbed the natural flow of the river. While there is no evidence of a cosmic impact near the time of the river's redirection, it is difficult to ignore the possibility that some event, one that we are still unable to detect or understand, could have had a profound effect on the Earth's geography. There is also a darker theory that suggests the shift in the river's flow was linked to an ancient catastrophe, a calamity so severe that it erased any trace of its cause from history. Some believe that the river was somehow tied to an ancient ritual or event that caused the land itself to rebel, its natural forces suddenly throwing the water off course as a response to a long-forgotten tragedy. Could the river have been cursed? Could its shift have been a consequence of a forgotten civilization's reckless disregard for the Earth itself? In this view, the river is not simply a body of water, but a living entity, one that reacts to the ancient sins of those who lived beside it. Perhaps even more troubling is the possibility that we may never fully understand what caused this change in direction. The river, like so many other mysteries of history, has left behind little in the way of direct evidence. While the shifting course is a fact, the why remains elusive. It is almost as though the river itself has become a symbol of nature's mysteries, an enigma that refuses to be solved, a question with no answer. In some ways, this unanswered question is what makes the river's change so captivating. It serves as a reminder that not all of history's puzzles have been solved. For all our advances in science and technology, there are still aspects of the world that remain beyond our reach. Could there be forces at play, whether natural or otherwise, that we have yet to understand? And if so, what other secrets might the Earth be hiding beneath its surface, waiting to reveal themselves? As we ponder these possibilities, the river continues to flow in its new course, its waters no longer traveling to the places they once knew. In the quiet, remote regions where the river now runs, the memory of its past is slowly fading, but the mystery persists. The answers to the questions we have asked may never be fully realized, but the allure of the unknown keeps drawing us in. What truly caused the river that changed direction? Was it a product of nature, a man-made intervention, or something far more elusive? Whatever the truth, the river's secret is still waiting, hidden in the deep currents carried by the waters, as if it is trying to tell us something that we may never fully understand. As we continue our journey through the corridors of forgotten history, we now find ourselves in a peculiar corner of the ancient world, one that remains shrouded in mystery, the story of the scribes who wrote backwards. This might sound like an odd claim, but the fact remains. There exist records of ancient civilizations that wrote in a manner entirely opposite to what we consider normal today. They inscribed their words not from left to right, as is customary in most modern languages, but from right to left, or in some cases even in mirror image. Picture, if you will, an ancient scribe seated at his desk, quill in hand. The dim flicker of an oil lamp casts shadows across the room. Before him, a scroll or a tablet awaits, its surface smooth and pristine. But instead of starting from the left side of the page, as one might expect, the scribe begins at the right, carefully inscribing each character in reverse order. What compelled these scribes to write in such an unconventional way? And why do we find evidence of this peculiar practice across so many different cultures and time periods? The earliest and perhaps most well-known example of this reversed writing can be found in the ancient Semitic scripts, notably in the Hebrew and Aramaic languages. Though most texts in these languages were written from right to left, there are records that reveal inscriptions written in a mirror image style. Characters appear as if they were intentionally flipped, so they could only be read properly with a reflection. This practice was not widespread, but it does raise intriguing questions about the nature of writing, communication, and the preservation of knowledge in the ancient world. As we dig deeper into this enigma, we come across another fascinating example: the mysterious reverse writing seen in some Egyptian hieroglyphs. While most hieroglyphs were inscribed from left to right, right to left, or even in columns, there are instances where the characters appear to be reversed, as though to be read only with a mirror. This is not the norm in Egyptian writing, but it is certainly not an isolated occurrence either. Why, then, did certain texts adopt this mirrored form? What makes this practice even more intriguing is the presence of backward writing in other distant cultures, such as the ancient Greeks. In some early inscriptions, the Greeks wrote in a style known as boustrophodon, which is Greek for "as the ox turns." In this form of writing, one line of text would be written left to right, while the next line would be written right to left, and so on, resembling the motion of an ox plowing a field. Though not exactly reversed in the mirror image sense, this style of writing represents a kind of fluidity, a back-and-forth motion that might suggest a deeper philosophical or symbolic meaning behind the act of writing itself. But while these instances are fascinating, they do not answer the larger question: why did these ancient scribes use this reversed style of writing in the first place? Was it merely a practical necessity? Some scholars have suggested that it could have been linked to the direction in which the scribe's hand naturally moved when holding a stylus or quill. The motion of writing with ink on a page might have led to the use of right-to-left writing in some cultures, with the left hand following the naturally flowing line of text. But this theory doesn't fully explain the more extreme instances where characters themselves were deliberately inverted or distorted in a mirror image. This leads us to consider more speculative explanations, ideas that move beyond the practical to the symbolic or even mystical. One possibility is that the act of writing backwards was seen as a way to protect or preserve knowledge. In some cultures, certain texts were believed to hold magical or sacred power, and reversing the words could serve as a way of shielding their meaning from the uninitiated. Writing in a mirrored form might have been thought to encode hidden knowledge, accessible only to those who were capable of decoding the reversed script. Could this have been a method of safeguarding powerful secrets, ancient rituals, religious teachings, or even forbidden knowledge from prying eyes? This idea of reverse writing as a method of encryption or concealment is reinforced by the practices of some later cultures. For example, in medieval Europe, the use of cryptic or mirror writing became a known method for creating coded messages. Leonardo da Vinci famously wrote many of his personal notes and sketches in reverse, using a technique called mirror writing that could only be read in reflection. While it's unclear whether da Vinci's use of mirror writing had a mystical purpose, the concept of reversing writing for secrecy or personal preservation is a thread that ties these ancient examples together. The idea of reversed writing as a way of preserving esoteric knowledge or divine wisdom is also present in some ancient religious traditions. In certain mystical traditions, such as those within Kabbalah, there's a deep focus on the hidden or unseen aspects of spiritual wisdom. Some believe that reversing written words, phrases, or symbols could act as a kind of spiritual unlocking, revealing hidden meanings that were not immediately accessible to the ordinary reader. This might suggest that the ancient scribes who wrote backwards were not simply following a practical convention, but were engaging in an act of deep symbolic significance, perhaps an attempt to access a divine or transcendent understanding of the world around them. And yet, despite the many possible explanations, there remains an undeniable mystery at the heart of this ancient practice. Did reverse writing serve as a method of encryption, a mystical act, or a stylistic choice? Were these scribes following an ancient tradition or doctrine that we have yet to fully comprehend? And how did this seemingly strange practice of reversed writing fit into the broader context of cultural and intellectual life in these ancient civilizations. Even more tantalizing is the question of whether we have lost something in our understanding of written language that the ancients knew, something that might explain why certain cultures believed that writing in reverse held a deeper, perhaps more powerful significance. Did they believe that by reversing the script, they could access hidden truths about the nature of reality itself? Could the key to some of humanity's oldest mysteries lie in the very way we communicate? In the end, the scribes who wrote backwards remain an enigma. Their motivations, whether practical, symbolic, or something else entirely, continue to elude our understanding. We may never know why they chose this peculiar form of writing or what they hoped to achieve by doing so. But perhaps the mystery is not in the answer, but in the question itself, the persistent, quiet wonder of what is hidden in the written word. As we reflect on these ancient scribes, their backward inscriptions and cryptic texts, we are reminded that there is still so much we have yet to uncover. What truths might still be hidden in the texts they left behind, waiting for us to look beyond the surface and decode what has long been forgotten? As we continue our exploration of the forgotten corners of history, we turn now to a mystery that has eluded even the most dedicated scholars: the lost scrolls of the Wind Kingdom. Long shrouded in myth and the whispers of ancient texts, these scrolls were said to contain the secrets of an empire that once ruled vast stretches of land, its power emanating from an understanding of the natural world that has since vanished without a trace. But who were these people? And what knowledge did they hold? Picture this: a windswept plateau high in the mountains, where the air is thin and the landscape is rugged and unforgiving. The Wind Kingdom, as it has come to be known, was thought to have flourished in this isolated and harsh environment. Its people were said to have mastered the art of communicating with the forces of nature, tapping into the power of the wind, the skies, and the elements. In this kingdom, the wind wasn't just a force of nature. It was a symbol of divine wisdom, a living force that connected the world below to something much higher. The Wind Kingdom's influence extended far beyond the borders of its mountainous homeland, reaching out to neighboring civilizations with knowledge of astrology, weather patterns, and even forgotten technologies. In ancient texts, we hear of rulers who could predict storms, align crops with celestial cycles, and create magnificent structures that seemed to defy the natural forces they had come to understand so deeply. This kingdom, it seems, had tapped into a forgotten knowledge, one that promised to unlock the mysteries of life itself. At the heart of the Wind Kingdom's power were the scrolls, inscribed with knowledge that was said to be passed down from generation to generation. These scrolls contained writings not just on philosophy or astronomy, but on the very fabric of nature: wind patterns, celestial alignments, and how the rhythms of the earth and sky could be harnessed. The scrolls were rumored to be so potent that they were kept under lock and key, safeguarded by a group of elite scribes who were entrusted with their preservation. Yet, in a twist of fate that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries, these scrolls seem to have disappeared without a trace. No one knows where they went or why they were lost. The mystery surrounding the lost scrolls is made all the more intriguing by the fact that there are so few physical traces of the Wind Kingdom itself. Archaeological evidence of the empire's existence is scant, with only a handful of artifacts and ruins scattered across the mountain ranges where the kingdom is believed to have once stood. Yet these artifacts are unusual in their design. Some seem to exhibit a level of sophistication far beyond what one might expect for a civilization of its time. Large stone structures, aligned with both the stars and prevailing winds, suggest a deep understanding of the natural world and its cycles. These structures may have been more than mere dwellings or monuments. They might have been part of an ancient system for predicting weather or harnessing energy from the environment. Was there a deeper purpose to these ruins, one that has been lost to time? As we sift through the remnants of this civilization, one can't help but wonder, did the Wind Kingdom possess knowledge so advanced that it was deliberately hidden from the world? Were the scrolls, containing the very essence of this wisdom, removed or destroyed to protect it from falling into the wrong hands? Some historians speculate that the knowledge contained within the scrolls might have been considered too dangerous or too powerful to be allowed to survive. Perhaps the Wind Kingdom in its prime recognized that such profound knowledge needed to be kept from those who might misuse it. Others suggest a more dramatic possibility, that the kingdom itself collapsed in a cataclysmic event, one that erased both the civilization and its knowledge from the historical record. Could this empire have been the victim of a sudden and irreversible change in the environment? Some climate researchers have pointed to evidence of dramatic shifts in weather patterns in the regions where the Wind Kingdom is believed to have flourished, suggesting that a sudden climatic change could have caused the kingdom to fall into ruin. Perhaps the very winds that the kingdom so deeply understood turned against them, creating a catastrophe that obliterated both the kingdom and its precious scrolls. Still, no one can explain why the scrolls remain so elusive. Were they buried in a hidden tomb, sealed away to protect their contents from the ravages of time and nature? Or were they lost in the chaotic aftermath of the kingdom's fall, scattered to the winds, literally? Could they have been carried off by wandering traders or nomadic peoples, whose descendants now hold the key to understanding what the Wind Kingdom truly knew? One particularly intriguing theory posits that the scrolls never disappeared at all, but were instead deliberately hidden by a select group within the kingdom, perhaps even passed down in secret. Some believe that the scrolls might still exist today, concealed in remote temples or tucked away in forgotten libraries, waiting to be discovered by those who are worthy of the knowledge they contain. Perhaps the kingdom's wisdom was never lost, but instead carefully guarded, awaiting a time when humanity would be ready to understand its true meaning. Yet, there are those who suggest that the Wind Kingdom's wisdom was not meant to be rediscovered at all. In this view, the lost scrolls were purposefully erased from history, as the knowledge they contained might be too powerful for modern societies to wield. Could the ancient scribes have foreseen the potential dangers of their teachings, and therefore hidden them from the world forever? In a world that is increasingly reliant on technology and science, might we be too disconnected from the natural rhythms that the Wind Kingdom once understood? Could the knowledge contained within these scrolls offer solutions to problems we are only now beginning to face? Issues of climate change, resource management, or the restoration of ecological balance? The disappearance of the lost scrolls of the Wind Kingdom raises more questions than it answers, and it is this very mystery that continues to captivate those who seek to uncover the secrets of the past. Were these scrolls simply lost to time, or was there a more deliberate attempt to keep their contents hidden from history? What truths did the scribes of the Wind Kingdom possess? Truths that could alter our understanding of the natural world, and perhaps even change the course of human history. As we ponder these questions, we find ourselves once again drawn into the web of a lost civilization, one whose wisdom may still be waiting for the right moment to resurface. The lost scrolls, the teachings of the Wind Kingdom, and the mysteries of their disappearance remain unsolved, a tantalizing puzzle that may one day be pieced together. Until then, we can only wonder, what might we discover, hidden beneath the dust of time, waiting to be found by those who seek to unlock the secrets of the past? As the veil of history pulls back, we find ourselves drawn toward an astonishing city, a place known as the city that spoke in code. Its very name, shrouded in the enigma of its origins, conjures visions of a metropolis where every street corner, Every building and every word seemed to hold a deeper meaning, a hidden message waiting to be decoded. This city, long obscured by time, is believed to have once thrived at the crossroads of trade and culture, its people regarded for their intelligence and wit. Yet, despite its prominence, the city's unique language, the code it spoke, has left historians baffled for centuries. Imagine standing in the heart of this ancient city. The sun sets over its cobblestone streets, casting long shadows over ornate stone buildings. The air is filled with the sounds of bustling markets, the clatter of carts, and the quiet hum of conversation. But if you listen closely, there's something peculiar about the way the people speak. It's not quite a language you can immediately understand. Words seem to twist and shift. Phrases come out in seemingly unconnected bursts. And yet, there's no doubt, the speakers know exactly what they are saying. What made this city so unusual was not just the complexity of its language, but the deliberate, almost cryptic nature of its communication. The residents of this lost city didn't simply speak in plain language. They spoke in a code, a system of communication that seemed to operate on multiple levels of meaning. To an outsider, a simple exchange might appear as a series of abstract statements, but to those in the know, every phrase held layers of information, references, and subtle shifts in tone that conveyed far more than what was on the surface. The most remarkable aspect of this coded language was its pervasiveness. It was not limited to secret societies or hidden factions within the city. It was spoken by the majority of its citizens. It was as if the very fabric of the city was woven with this cryptic pattern. Everything, from the street signs to the inscriptions on buildings, was encoded in some form. Early travelers who ventured into the city described feeling an overwhelming sense of being an outsider, disconnected from the pulse of the city, unable to fully grasp the depth of what was being communicated. Historians have long debated the purpose behind this coded communication. Was it a language designed to protect the city's secrets from invading forces or foreign merchants? Or was it something more? Some scholars suggest that the city's unique way of speaking was a method of safeguarding knowledge, encoding vital information in such a way that only those who had been trained could decipher it. This would have been particularly useful in a world where intellectual property, religious texts, and trade secrets were fiercely protected. But then again, could there have been a deeper, more symbolic meaning behind this way of communicating? What we do know is that the city's people were masters of symbols, codes, and subtle expressions. Their language was filled with double meanings and references that seemed to transcend the usual limits of verbal communication. One might wonder if this was a way of conveying complex ideas, philosophical, scientific, or spiritual concepts that could not be easily understood through simple language. Perhaps they believed that some truths could only be grasped by those who could decipher the underlying patterns of their speech. The idea of a city that spoke in code is not entirely without precedent. In other parts of the ancient world, secretive societies such as the Pythagoreans in Greece or the Essenes in Israel were known to communicate in ways that obscured their true meanings from the uninitiated. But in the case of this city, the coded language was not confined to select groups. It was a part of everyday life for everyone who lived there. Over the centuries, as empires rose and fell around the city, its peculiar code persisted. However, over time, the true nature of the language began to fade into obscurity. As the city was eventually abandoned, its knowledge remained locked within its walls, waiting to be rediscovered. The few surviving texts from the city, such as scrolls and inscriptions found in ruins, contain fragments of this strange language. But these fragments are incomplete, and many of the symbols used are still beyond our full understanding. In an attempt to unlock the mystery of the city's communication, scholars have carefully analyzed the texts that remain. Some believe that the city's language was a form of cryptography, an early precursor to the complex ciphers used in later centuries. Others speculate that it was a symbolic language, where each word and phrase was a metaphor for something greater. Perhaps an attempt to encode the divine, the natural world, or philosophical truths within the structure of the city's daily life. Could the coded language have been a form of philosophical encryption, protecting deeper secrets that were meant to be understood only by those who had mastered the art of interpretation? There are also those who suggest that the city's language was a way of communicating with the divine. Some historians have pointed out that certain phrases used in the city's code bear striking resemblances to ancient religious invocations or prayers. This has led some to propose that the city's language was not just a practical tool, but a spiritual one, a means of establishing a deeper connection with the forces that governed the universe. One of the most intriguing aspects of this mystery is the fact that no written records of the full code have survived. All that remains are fragmented inscriptions and oral traditions, leaving us with only glimpses into a once vibrant way of life. Could it be that the code was deliberately erased? Some have speculated that the city's fall, whether due to invasion, environmental disaster, or internal collapse, was a result of the unraveling of its very foundation, its language. If the code was so integral to the identity of the people, could its loss have caused the collapse of the civilization itself? Yet, there are still whispers of the code's existence, of hidden texts and forgotten scrolls, waiting to be uncovered. There are claims of ancient manuscripts discovered in remote caves or libraries that could hold the key to understanding the full extent of the city's language. Could there be hidden rooms within ancient ruins, filled with knowledge that has yet to be revealed? Perhaps the mystery of the city that spoke in code is not one of complete loss, but of waiting. A puzzle suspended in time, waiting for someone to unlock its secrets. As we ponder this mystery, we must also ask, what would we learn if we could finally understand the code? What truths about the city's people, their worldview, and their secrets would emerge from the depths of this ancient cipher? And what, perhaps, would it tell us about our own world? About how we communicate, how we encode meaning, and what might still be hidden from our understanding? For now, the city that spoke in code remains a riddle, its answers hidden in the cracks and crevices of time. And though the language of its people may be lost, the search for its meaning continues to beckon, calling out for someone, perhaps you, to piece together the fragments and unlock the mysteries that have long been buried. The wind stirs the ancient trees that line the edge of the forgotten jungle, their dark trunks and twisted limbs casting long shadows across a path that few dare to tread. The air here is thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and the distant hum of unseen creatures. This is the place where a road, long lost to time, winds its way through the wild. A path that leads to a temple abandoned by all but memory. The Cursed Road, as it's known in the local lore, has been the subject of both fascination and fear for centuries. For every traveler who has attempted the journey, there is a tale of strange happenings, mysterious disappearances, or unsettling experiences. The road itself is not much more than a faint trace on the earth, barely discernible beneath the tangled growth of the jungle. It was once the main route to a sacred temple, a structure of immense religious and historical significance, whose name has been erased from most records. Ancient maps and manuscripts hint at its location, but few details remain. What we do know is that this road, for reasons unknown, was considered cursed, an ominous warning that surrounded the temple's very existence. The first accounts of the road's curse date back to the earliest explorers of the region. These accounts are fragmented, often contradictory, but they all carry a similar theme. Those who walked the road were never quite the same. A steady unease followed them, as if they were pursued by something unseen, something ancient. Some spoke of whispers in the wind, voices in the rustling of the trees, while others reported strange visions or dreams, visions of dark figures or unsettling glimpses of the temple itself, hidden deep within the jungle. One particularly chilling story is that of a group of explorers who, after hearing the warnings of locals, decided to test the legend of the cursed road for themselves. They set out with high hopes, confident in their ability to conquer the unknown. But as the days stretched on, they began to experience inexplicable occurrences. Their maps became unreliable, the compass spun wildly, and strange noises seemed to follow them, even when they were utterly alone. One by one, the explorers began to falter. Some fell ill, while others became paranoid, convinced that someone, or something, was watching them from the shadows. Within a week, the group was scattered, and only one member returned, delirious and broken, unable to explain what had happened. There are those who dismiss these tales as nothing more than folklore or the products of an overactive imagination. Yet, there is an undeniable thread of truth woven into these stories, an undeniable sense that the road, and the temple it leads to, carries with it a darkness that has endured through the centuries. Archaeologists and historians have long speculated on the origin of the curse, with some suggesting that the road was deliberately built in such a way as to shield the temple from prying eyes. The very layout of the path, with its seemingly illogical turns and dead ends, gives the impression that it was designed to confuse and disorient those who attempted to find it. But if the road was truly a deliberate barrier, what was it protecting? Was it the temple itself, or something far more dangerous, hidden deep within its walls? The temple, abandoned for centuries, is said to house artifacts and relics that have never been seen by modern eyes, items believed to possess power beyond comprehension. Could the curse be a protective measure? A means of keeping these powerful objects from falling into the wrong hands? Or is the curse something more insidious, linked to ancient rituals and dark forces that once resided within the temple? The speculation surrounding the temple is just as mysterious. Some believe that the structure was not merely a place of worship, but a center of powerful rites, rituals that were so dangerous they had to be sealed away. Others suggest that the temple was built atop an ancient site of cosmic significance, perhaps aligned with celestial events or forces that are beyond our understanding. There are whispers, too, of an ancient civilization whose name has been lost to time, a people who understood things that modern humanity can only begin to fathom. Were they attempting to harness the forces of nature, or perhaps something more supernatural? And did this pursuit lead to their downfall? As the years passed and the curse continued to deter would-be explorers, the jungle began to reclaim the road, erasing the traces of human presence. The path that once led to the forgotten temple became little more than a myth, a tale told by those who had once lived near it, their voices growing softer with each generation. Yet, despite its obscurity, there are those who believe the road is still there, hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. In recent decades, there have been reports of expeditions trying to find the path again, only to disappear without a trace. Their disappearance fuels the fire of the legend, adding new layers to the mystery. So, what is it that makes this road so cursed? Is it merely the result of an ancient civilization's protective measures, or is there something more at play? Some theories suggest that the road itself is not cursed at all, but rather that it is a part of the natural world, an area where the boundaries between the material and the supernatural are thin. Could it be that the road leads not just to a temple, but to a place where forces beyond human comprehension still linger? Forces that are better left undisturbed? As we stand at the edge of this mystery, the questions only multiply. Why, after all these years, do the warnings continue to echo? What is it about the temple, or the road that leads to it, that continues to hold such a grip on the human imagination? The curse remains a part of the story, but its true nature, hidden beneath the layers of myth and speculation, is still beyond our grasp. Could it be that the temple holds secrets not only about the past, but also about the future? A warning, perhaps, that we are not meant to understand. As night falls over the jungle, the air grows heavy with the unanswered questions. The path remains, waiting for those who dare to follow its twisted turns. The forgotten temple, veiled in mystery, waits in silence, its secrets locked away. And the curse? It lingers, ever present, just beyond the reach of understanding. More fringe theories also abound. Some suggest that the flood was not simply a natural disaster, but a catastrophic event caused by a deliberate intervention. Perhaps a powerful civilization from another part of the world, or even extraterrestrial beings, whose advanced technology could have manipulated weather patterns or the Earth's natural forces. Others point to the possibility of ancient weapons, tools of unimaginable power, created by the lost civilization itself, a form of technological hubris that ultimately led to its downfall. Despite the myriad of theories, the flood remains one of the most baffling events in human history. It is as though the very fabric of the civilization was torn apart, leaving no trace behind except for the memories of those who survived. The flood not only erased a civilization, but also disrupted the flow of history itself. Entire cultures were lost, their knowledge forgotten, their achievements buried beneath the waters. The records that might have explained this disaster vanished, leaving behind only whispers of what once was. As we search for answers, we find ourselves wondering, what truly caused this flood? Was it simply a natural disaster, a rare convergence of climatic factors, or something far more mysterious? Did ancient civilizations possess knowledge or technology that could explain such a catastrophe? Or could the flood have been the result of an unknown force, one that has long since faded into the forgotten corners of history? As we contemplate these questions, it is important to remember that the flood, like so many other lost events in history, remains a tantalizing mystery. It calls out to us, not with answers but with its absence, a void in the historical record that refuses to be filled. And perhaps, in the end, that is the most profound mystery of all, that some events, no matter how monumental, remain forever hidden beneath the surface of time, their true nature never to be understood. The ancient floodwaters began slowly, creeping across the land with an ominous stillness. What had once been a river, a mere trickle of water meandering through the countryside, now became a torrent. Rising, swelling, consuming everything in its path. It was as though the earth itself was protesting, urging the civilizations that had flourished here to retreat. Entire cities, once vibrant and teeming with life, vanished beneath the water's dark embrace. The flood that erased an era would not be remembered by the generations that followed, yet its legacy lingers, buried beneath layers of myth and lost history. Picture, if you will, the land before the flood. A sprawling civilization that stretched across fertile plains, where rivers teemed with life and the soil yielded crops in abundance. It was an era of prosperity, where temples and palaces rose high above the ground, and the cities hummed with the rhythm of daily life. The people, advanced in their knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and the arts, seemed destined to carry their achievements into the future. And yet, in the blink of an eye, everything was wiped away. The flood, as it is described in surviving accounts, arrived without warning. There are no records of a great storm or seismic activity that could explain such a catastrophic event. It was simply as if the skies had opened and the earth's veins had ruptured. In the span of mere hours, rivers burst their banks, torrents of water inundating fields, roads, and entire settlements. Cities that had stood for millennia were submerged, their magnificent structures swallowed whole by the relentless surge. Not a single building or artifact from this lost civilization was left untouched. In the aftermath, nothing remained except the water and the few fragments of a forgotten age. Many of the earliest accounts of the flood come from survivors, scattered across neighboring regions. These survivors spoke of an overwhelming sense of helplessness, of watching their homes, their culture, and their entire way of life vanish beneath the waves. The flood was not merely an act of nature, it was seen by some as divine retribution, a punishment for transgressions too great to ignore. Others claimed that the flood was a cleansing of the land, a necessary reset for a world that had grown too decadent, too far removed from its original purpose. As the waters receded, what remained was a barren landscape, unrecognizable from the once thriving world that had existed before. The survivors, though scattered and traumatized, spoke little of the exact cause of the flood. What they had witnessed defied explanation. How could a flood of such magnitude have occurred without any clear warning or precursor? There were no signs of tectonic upheaval, no natural explanation for the sudden rise in water levels. The flood's origin remains shrouded in mystery, and the event is often relegated to the realm of myth. A disaster too great to have truly happened, and yet too real to ignore. Historians and archaeologists have long tried to uncover the truth behind this enigmatic flood. Some believe that the flood was merely the culmination of a natural cycle, the result of changing climate patterns or perhaps a catastrophic shift in a nearby water system, an event that, over time, caused rivers and lakes to swell beyond their normal limits. According to this theory, the flood may have been triggered by a series of smaller floods or changes in the natural environment, culminating in an event of such magnitude that it wiped away all traces of civilization. There is evidence, however, that suggests this theory may not explain the full scope of the disaster. Ancient texts, particularly those found in regions far from the flood's suspected origin, describe similar events happening across a vast region, even continents apart. These references, though sparse, paint a picture of a world in turmoil, a world plagued by rising waters, unexplainable shifts in the earth, and strange phenomena that affected entire populations. One theory posits that the flood may have been connected to a sudden shift in the Earth's orbit, or perhaps an astronomical event that caused a dramatic increase in the water levels of the world's oceans and rivers. This idea, though highly speculative, suggests that a celestial alignment or cosmic event could have triggered a flood on a global scale. Could such an event, something so far outside the scope of human comprehension, have occurred, only to be lost to time, in the heart of an ancient city, beneath the layers of earth, stone, and centuries of neglect, lies a secret. It is a secret that scholars, explorers, and historians have sought for generations, the lost library of a forgotten civilization. But this library is not one of parchment and ink, its shelves lined with the familiar scrolls of classical knowledge. This is a repository of knowledge far older, far stranger, and more elusive than anything that modern eyes have seen. Imagine the dust that covers the entrance to this lost world, a thick coating that tells the story of time's neglect. The air within this hidden chamber is thick with the scent of musty paper, old leather, and secrets that have long been sealed away. Forgotten by all but a handful of whisperers in history, the library remains buried beneath the earth. Its name is lost to the pages of time, yet its legacy continues to intrigue those who have glimpsed its existence, and even more so, those who seek its treasure of knowledge. There are references, buried in the scattered accounts of travelers and ancient texts, that allude to this place. From the obscure writings of a philosopher's journal to the forgotten notes of a scholar, there are cryptic mentions of a library so vast it was said to contain the answers to every mystery, answers to questions that had not yet been asked. Some said it held wisdom that could change the course of history itself. But why, then, was it hidden? Why was it abandoned, its contents left to rot and decay in the forgotten corners of the world? The first clue to the library's existence came in the form of a legend, an ancient story passed down through generations, barely believed and yet never completely forgotten. The legend speaks of a grand city, a cultural epicenter of great importance, where knowledge and learning flourished as they had never before. It is said that the ruler of this city, a figure whose name has long since been erased from the annals of history, sought to preserve all that humanity had discovered in his time. The library, according to the legend, was a reflection of this ambition, a place where every scroll, every stone tablet, every written word was meticulously catalogued. There were no limits to what the library contained. Histories, philosophies, mathematical equations, rituals, and even prophecies. The more one delves into the surviving fragments of this story, the stranger it becomes. The library was not just a repository of knowledge. It was believed to be a living entity, its contents ever growing, ever changing. Some say the books themselves were imbued with a strange power, the ink containing properties that could alter the minds of those who read them. The librarian, an enigmatic figure cloaked in mystery, was said to be more than a mere keeper of knowledge. Was this individual simply a scholar, or did they have access to something far more profound? Was the library's ability to change itself and grow a product of magic, or was it based on principles of science far beyond what we can comprehend today? As the years wore on, the city that housed the library began to fall into decline. The reasons for this decline vary across the fragmented records, but one common thread appears. The very knowledge that the library contained was beginning to be seen as dangerous. Those who had once revered the power of knowledge began to fear it. There were whispers of corruption, of minds being twisted and altered by the strange texts. As the city's inhabitants grew more distrustful of the library's power, they began to withdraw, and eventually the library was sealed, its doors locked, its knowledge buried. But it was not forgotten. The legend of the library continued to haunt the surrounding regions, and over the centuries, many expeditions were launched to locate it. Archaeologists, adventurers, and treasure hunters scoured the landscape, guided by only the faintest clues. Cryptic references hidden in the oldest texts, vague maps pointing to an unmarked location, and hushed rumors passed down through generations. Yet, despite their efforts, the library has eluded discovery, as though the Earth itself has conspired to keep it hidden. As the centuries passed, the idea that the library might still exist became increasingly speculative. Some argued that it had been destroyed in a natural disaster, perhaps an earthquake or flood, while others suggested that its contents were deliberately erased, wiped out by a powerful civilization that feared its influence. There are even theories that suggest the library never existed in the way we imagine it, that it was a product of legend, a metaphorical space for the collective knowledge of a people rather than a physical place. Yet, the most tantalizing possibilities are the ones that remain unexplained. Could the library have been intentionally concealed, perhaps by those who had gained control of the knowledge it held? Was the act of its burial not an attempt to destroy it, but a calculated decision to protect it, sealing it away for some future age, when humanity would be ready to unlock its secrets once again? And what of the strange properties said to exist within its books? Could the library's contents hold the key to solving long-standing mysteries, to understanding the origins of human civilization, or perhaps even offering glimpses into the future? Even more unsettling is the possibility that the knowledge contained within the library may not have come from human hands at all. There are whispers that the texts themselves may have originated from a time before recorded history, or even from beyond the Earth. Could the library be an artifact of an ancient civilization whose technology, or even knowledge, far surpassed our own? Were the mysterious texts a gift or a warning? Despite the endless speculation, no physical evidence has emerged to definitively prove the existence of the library, or to confirm any of the theories surrounding its fate. Still, the absence of evidence only deepens the mystery. The library may never be found, or it may remain forever locked in the annals of myth. As we reflect on the possibility of this library, buried somewhere beneath the surface of the Earth, we are left to wonder, what truths might still lie hidden in the lost pages of history? What knowledge might be waiting, just beyond our reach, to alter the course of humanity once again? The answers may never come, but the questions they raise remain, as persistent as the whispers of the past, calling to us from the depths of time. As night falls over the vast stretch of land, a soft breeze stirs the silence, carrying the faint scent of salt and earth. The distant murmur of the ocean and the rustle of trees are all that remains of a story lost to time. A storm so powerful, so immense, that it left its mark on the very shape of the land itself. This storm was not just a natural disaster, it was a cataclysm that altered the course of history and the contours of a continent. It begins with a fierce, unrelenting wind. In the quiet hours of the night, a force of nature began to gather strength. Gale winds, darkening skies, and an ominous silence that swept over the seas. For days, the storm built, and as it did, it carved through the landscape, reshaping rivers, eroding mountains, and creating a landscape that would stand as a testament to its power. But unlike other natural disasters, this one did not simply pass into the pages of history. No, this storm became an event that is whispered about, written in the margins of old journals, and remembered by a few, its effects still lingering in ways that are not fully understood. In the aftermath, when the winds finally ceased and the clouds parted to reveal a sky that no longer seemed quite the same, entire ecosystems had shifted. Entire coastlines were transformed, once fertile lands now barren, and navigable routes, vital for trade and exploration, had changed beyond recognition. Yet, it was not just the physical landscape that had been altered. The storm, whose origins are now the subject of myth and study, carried with it a strange, almost otherworldly energy. Ancient trees, uprooted and scattered, had been found with their roots exposed, bearing symbols carved deep into their bark, symbols that appeared in no known language. For years, researchers debated whether the storm was merely a powerful weather event, or if something deeper, something more mysterious had been at work. Historians began to study old accounts, written in fragmented and barely legible texts, which seemed to describe strange occurrences preceding the storm. A long-forgotten oracle, once revered by the locals, had spoken of a great tempest, an event that would change the world. But their warnings had gone unheeded. Could this storm have been more than just nature's wrath? Some wondered if it had been a harbinger, a warning of a coming upheaval, perhaps even a sign from the gods themselves. As the years passed and more details about the storm came to light, a pattern began to emerge. Certain civilizations, particularly those along the coasts, had been disproportionately affected. Ancient cities, once thriving, were now abandoned, their ruins scattered across the now altered landscape. Some scholars suggested that these cities had been the epicenter of a civilization that, in its arrogance, had disregarded warnings, leading to their swift and violent end. But could this explanation truly account for the sheer scale of the destruction? How could such a singular event so comprehensively change the face of a continent? While mainstream theories insist that the storm was a result of naturally occurring weather patterns, perhaps a rare convergence of atmospheric conditions, such as an unexpected shift in ocean currents or an enormous cyclone, there remain those who believe there was something far stranger at play. Could it have been an ancient weapon, hidden away for millennia and activated by an unknown force? Was the storm something created by a lost civilization, an act of desperation, or a misguided attempt at control? There are those who point to the symbols found on the uprooted trees, the remnants of strange artifacts recovered from the debris, and the eerie silence that preceded the storm. Some even suggest that this storm may not have been a storm at all, but a sudden, catastrophic event of a different kind. Perhaps a release of energy or a tear in the very fabric of reality itself. Others are drawn to the idea that this storm was not a random occurrence at all. Some believe it was part of a greater cosmic pattern, something that had been foretold not just by oracles but by the movements of the stars. Could there be a connection between the storm and celestial alignments? The ancient civilizations that once populated these shores were known for their advanced knowledge of astronomy, and their understanding of the heavens was far more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. Could they have understood, in ways we cannot comprehend, the exact moment when such a cataclysmic event would unfold? And if so, did they prepare for it? Were there others who saw this as an opportunity to influence the future, to reshape history? More peculiar still is the idea that the storm did not originate in the skies at all. Could it have come from beneath the earth? A seismic event of unimaginable magnitude, one that released energies trapped deep below the surface, could have caused both the devastating winds and the shifting of the land. There are some who speculate that this event was not the result of a traditional storm, but an atmospheric disturbance caused by an underground source. Deep in the Earth's crust, a massive, unexplained geological event could have triggered the forces that altered the continent. And what of the after effects? Some accounts claim that those who survived the storm began to speak of strange dreams and visions, with some even reporting that they could no longer speak or write in the same way they once did. Was the storm responsible for a transformation in those who witnessed it? Could it have altered the way they perceived the world around them, perhaps permanently changing the course of their civilization? As with so many stories from history's distant past, much of the truth surrounding this storm remains elusive. For some, the storm is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the raw, untamable power of nature. For others, it remains an enigma, a puzzle that speaks of a time before recorded history, when forces beyond our understanding reshaped the land and the people who lived there. The events of that day continue to ripple through history, casting a shadow over the civilizations that came before and after it. What remains of this storm now is little more than fragments, scattered across time. Evidence in the form of stories, remnants, and a lingering sense of unease, reminding us that even in the face of overwhelming natural events, there are still mysteries that may never be solved. So, as we continue to search for answers, one thing is certain: the storm that shaped a continent has left its mark, not just on the land, but on the very fabric of our history, inviting us to look deeper, to question what we think we know, and to wonder what truths still lie hidden beneath the surface. Deep within the heart of an ancient and remote mountain range, there lies a cave whose very existence defies explanation. Known as the Cave of Eternal Smoke, This mysterious and enigmatic place has long captured the imagination of those who hear its name. Far from a simple geological formation, this cave is shrouded in an almost otherworldly aura, its entrance hidden from casual view, obscured by dense forests and jagged cliffs. For centuries, it has stood as an elusive riddle, a puzzle woven into the fabric of local folklore, yet resisted all attempts at logical explanation. The entrance to the cave, when found, is both foreboding and mesmerizing. A narrow, jagged mouth opens into a cavern that seems to swallow sound, casting the surrounding area in eerie silence. The air is thick, heavy, almost impossibly dense, as though the very atmosphere has been altered by something beyond human comprehension. Within this foreboding threshold, a peculiar phenomenon occurs. A constant, low-hanging mist swirls just above the cave's floor, not moving with the natural flow of wind, but rather lingering, as though it is drawn to the place itself. The mist is not water vapor. It's thick, opaque, and smoke-like, with no obvious source of ignition. Its presence within the cave is constant. Indeed, it has been reported to never dissipate, regardless of the time of year or weather conditions outside. Over the centuries, many have ventured to the Cave of Eternal Smoke, eager to uncover its secrets. Some of the earliest records of the cave come from local tribes, whose oral histories tell of the smoke as a sacred, mystical force. According to their stories, the cave was once a place of worship, a site where ancient rituals were performed in honor of forgotten gods, the smoke a symbol of communication between the physical and spiritual realms. In these rituals, the smoke was said to carry the words and wishes of the people to the heavens, a mystical conduit that transcended the boundaries of the material world. But as history marched on, the cave's significance faded. It was abandoned, forsaken to the elements, and its powers slowly drifted into myth. Yet the smoke remained. Generations passed, and even as the smoke persisted, the reasons for its presence became more obscure. It was as if the earth itself had chosen to keep its mystery intact, guarding it from those who might seek answers. In the modern age, the cave has become a subject of intense curiosity. Scientific expeditions have attempted to explore the origins of the smoke, conducting tests to identify any natural or chemical causes. But time and time again, they are met with baffling results. The smoke, it seems, has no explanation. Some scientists suggest that it could be caused by subterranean gases, perhaps a mixture of methane or sulfur venting from deep within the earth, creating an illusion of smoke. But this theory falls short. No dangerous gas has been detected in any harmful quantity, and the mist itself lacks the usual telltale signs of any known atmospheric or geological anomaly. Even more peculiar is the fact that the smoke never dissipates. It is not seasonal, nor does it correlate with any known weather pattern. It remains constant day after day, year after year. How could this be? Why does the smoke refuse to fade, despite every rational attempt to explain it away? Some have speculated that the cave is connected to a network of underground currents, perhaps formed by an ancient river or the movement of tectonic plates. Could the smoke be some sort of vapor rising from an underground aquifer, creating the illusion of fog or smoke? Though intriguing, this theory too fails to fully explain the cave's strange, unyielding nature. Other, more speculative theories offer alternative explanations, delving into the realms of the paranormal and the supernatural. A growing number of people, from casual visitors to more devoted seekers, have proposed that the smoke may be the product of something far more mysterious than any natural explanation could account for. Some whisper of a connection to otherworldly forces, suggesting that the cave is somehow a rift between dimensions, a doorway to realms beyond human understanding. Is the smoke a physical manifestation of energy? a remnant of some lost civilization's experiments with forbidden knowledge? Could the cave have been the site of ancient rituals, perhaps involving the manipulation of elemental forces? Rituals that, over time, imprinted the very nature of the smoke onto the land. There are those who believe the smoke may be something much older, something that predates human civilization itself. Could the cave, with its persistent mist, be the last remnant of an ancient, forgotten world? There are accounts from explorers who claim to have seen strange lights flickering within the cave's depths, dancing amidst the smoke. Could these be reflections or something far stranger? Could they be an indication of life or energy still lingering within the cave? In more recent years, the cave has become the subject of modern myths. Some claim to have had vivid dreams after visiting the cave, experiencing visions of long-lost civilizations and cryptic messages that seem to hint at a time when the cave was not just a place of ritual, but a center of extraordinary knowledge. Could the smoke be an artifact of an ancient people, their understanding of the world so advanced that it transcended the laws of nature as we know them today? Could this be a remnant of their power, a way to preserve their knowledge for a future civilization to uncover? And yet, for all the theories, for all the speculation, the truth remains elusive. The cave's smoke, with all its mystery and allure, refuses to yield its secrets. Some have claimed that entering the cave itself is dangerous. Those who venture too deep are said to come back changed, with no clear memory of what transpired within. Could it be that the Cave of Eternal Smoke is simply a natural phenomenon, a strange geological accident that has perplexed human minds for centuries? Or is there something more to this cave, something waiting to be uncovered, perhaps hidden in plain sight? As the mystery of the cave continues to unfold, the questions remain unanswered. What is the true origin of the smoke that fills the cave? What lies deeper within, just beyond the smoke's reach? Is the cave an ancient relic of a forgotten civilization, or is it a place where the boundaries between the known and the unknown blur into something greater, something we have yet to understand? The Cave of Eternal Smoke continues to resist explanation, leaving us with more questions than answers, and a lingering sense that perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain hidden, waiting patiently for the curious to uncover them in the future. In some circles, a more speculative idea has taken root. The Bronze Towers were part of an ancient network of structures. Some believe even an entire civilization that had access to advanced forms of energy, which allowed them to disappear or phase in and out of existence. These theories often invoke the idea of lost technology, perhaps akin to the vortex theories of space-time, or even the manipulation of dimensional space, which, though highly speculative, find their origins in modern physics. The idea that an ancient civilization could have mastered such knowledge, only to lose it in the span of a few generations, raises as many questions as it answers. Could these towers have been used to harness energies or power sources that were considered too dangerous or too unstable for long-term use? If the Bronze Towers truly possessed some sort of advanced technology, could this explain their sudden disappearance? Did they simply cease to exist as their creators chose to abandon them for reasons we may never fully understand? Or were they erased from history, destroyed, hidden, or lost deliberately to prevent others from accessing their power? Even without such extreme theories, there are still those who point to the possibility that the Bronze Towers never truly vanished at all. Perhaps they were repurposed, their materials stripped and used in the construction of new buildings, leaving only faint traces of their existence. Ancient civilizations, after all, were known to repurpose the structures and materials of their predecessors, incorporating them into their own cities and temples. The case of the Bronze Towers is both a mystery and an enigma, a riddle that no matter how many times it is examined, resists clear answers. Theories abound, yet each one is clouded by the passage of time and the limitations of our understanding. What happened to the towers, and why are they no longer found in the places where ancient texts once spoke of them? Were they erased from history deliberately, hidden from the world for reasons we can only guess at? Or is it possible that these towers, along with their creators, are simply waiting to be rediscovered, buried beneath layers of history and time, awaiting the right moment to reveal their secrets once more? The story of the Bronze Towers remains unfinished, a story suspended between what we know and what we have yet to uncover. It challenges us to look deeper into the past and wonder what truths still lie hidden, waiting in the shadows of history. As we continue our journey through the corridors of time, we now find ourselves before a phenomenon so perplexing, so wholly unexpected, that it challenges everything we know about the ancient world. A tale woven from fragments of lost history and whispers of forgotten grandeur, it centers around the Bronze Towers, the towering structures, once believed to have been marvels of engineering, which have mysteriously vanished from the world's collective memory. Long before the stone castles and iron fortresses that came to define ancient civilizations, there were towers, bronze towers, described in the few surviving texts from ancient cultures. These immense structures, purportedly gleaming under the sun, are said to have reached heights far greater than those built with more conventional materials of the time. Bronze, a metal once valued for its strength and utility, was believed to have been employed not just in the construction of tools and weapons, but in the very foundation of monumental architecture itself. In places such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even parts of the mysterious Americas, ancient records speak of these towers, which were often considered symbols of power, knowledge, and divine connection. But as quickly as they appeared in ancient texts, the bronze towers seemed to disappear from history altogether. Where they once stood, no trace remains. No ruins, no skeletal remains of their once proud columns, no faint outlines etched into the earth. It is as though these towering structures simply dissolved into the fabric of time. In the ancient world, the bronze towers were more than just buildings. They were cultural landmarks, awe-inspiring in their design and mysterious in their purpose. Some accounts suggest they were used as temples, where the elite could commune with gods, or as observation points for tracking celestial movements. Others speculate they might have been technological centers, where ancient knowledge was safeguarded and passed down through the generations. Yet the most intriguing and haunting aspect of these towers was their supposed ability to vanish, as if they were made to blend into the landscape when the moment was right. Some even whisper that they were built by an advanced civilization that perhaps had learned to manipulate time itself. In ancient Mesopotamian texts, there are mentions of a shimmering city, its towers glinting like polished copper in the sunlight. Strangely, these descriptions align with no known archaeological site. Could this city have been a part of a forgotten empire, one that left no enduring trace? Or was the city's very disappearance, its supposed transformation into a shadow, part of a larger mystery surrounding the bronze towers? The idea of a structure fading from existence may seem fantastical, yet similar tales are scattered throughout various cultures. The ancient Egyptians, for example, wrote of monumental structures that seemed to shift, change, and even disappear. The city of Jeddah, once thought to be a capital of ancient Egypt, was described in writings as a place where the very landscape seemed to shift and shimmer, obscuring its presence from the eyes of outsiders. Ancient scrolls mention how the towers in Jeddah, built in an era far earlier than the Great Pyramids, were imbued with power and possessed abilities that modern science cannot fully comprehend. Some archaeologists have attempted to attribute these ancient descriptions to exaggerations or metaphorical language, arguing that what was once a flourishing civilization with towering structures may have simply left behind more modest ruins that have since been buried by time, sand, and erosion. Others suggest that the bronze towers could have been destroyed by natural disasters, perhaps earthquakes or floods, erasing any trace of their existence. But there are other theories, far less conventional, that push the boundaries of what we believe possible. Some claim that the bronze towers were built with materials and methods so advanced that they defied the limitations of the time period. Could they have been constructed from alloys or composites unknown to us, lost in the dust of history? Perhaps the bronze wasn't just for structure, but for some greater, unknown purpose, an element that played a key role in the tower's ability to disappear. Ancient myths from the Far East and parts of South America speak of cities that could vanish from sight, their citizens walking through a veil of mist or smoke, leaving no evidence of their existence. As we continue our exploration through the corridors of forgotten history, we now turn our attention to an artifact so enigmatic it has confounded historians, cartographers, and adventurers alike. A map, seemingly of extraordinary precision and detail, yet it charts no known place, no identifiable landmass, and no familiar landmarks. The object of our curiosity is the Clockwork Map of Nowhere, an artifact that has perplexed anyone who has dared to study it. Its very name evokes a sense of mystery, like a puzzle that is yet to be solved, and perhaps one that will never fully reveal its secrets. The map itself, meticulously drawn with a series of intricate lines and symbols, defies the traditional understanding of cartography. Unlike maps that serve as guides to real-world locations, this map appears to chart a world that doesn't exist, or at least a world we cannot find. Its edges are adorned with strange clockwork mechanisms, delicate gears and cogs, which seem to suggest that it may be more than just a map in the traditional sense. Some believe it is a mechanical device, an object not merely intended for navigation, but for some greater, unknown purpose. The most striking feature of the clockwork map is its perplexing movement. It is said that, under certain conditions, the map exhibits a strange, almost imperceptible motion. Gears turn, symbols shift, and parts of the map appear to subtly rearrange themselves. Could this be the work of an ancient civilization with knowledge far ahead of its time? Or does it point to something deeper, a mystery that stretches beyond human comprehension? To understand the intrigue surrounding the clockwork map, we must first turn to its discovery. The map was unearthed in the early 19th century in a forgotten corner of an ancient ruin, buried beneath layers of earth and stone. Some reports claim it was found by a solitary explorer who, after discovering the map, became obsessed with its mysteries. Others suggest it was passed from hand to hand, each owner becoming increasingly bewildered as they tried to decipher its meaning. The map's materials are unusual as well. While it appears to be made from an ancient form of parchment, its surface has a metallic sheen, hinting at the possibility of alchemical processes unknown to modern science. Some have speculated that it is a fusion of paper and metal, a creation that has somehow defied the ravages of time. Its age is difficult to determine, with estimates ranging from a few centuries to millennia. No markings or inscriptions provide any clear indication of its origin, and no clear connection has been established between the map and any known civilization. As we delve deeper into the map's design, we find that it is not merely a simple representation of landforms and seas, as would be expected in any normal map. Instead, it presents a world that seems to exist outside the boundaries of conventional geography. Unfamiliar coastlines and continents appear, while others have no earthly parallel. The seas and rivers, though drawn with remarkable precision, do not correspond to any locations known on Earth. One of the most baffling elements is the inclusion of what appear to be celestial bodies, a series of stars, planets, and moons meticulously mapped across the sky. These, too, have no known counterparts in the night sky. Some have suggested that these could be the product of astronomical calculations far beyond what would have been possible for any ancient civilization. Could these bodies be part of a lost star system, or perhaps an entirely different dimension? The most perplexing aspect of the Clockwork Map, however, is its mysterious function. According to those who have studied it, the map is not static. It seems to change over time. Continents shift, coastlines expand, and sometimes whole areas vanish altogether, only to reappear in another part of the map. The gears embedded in the map are said to click and turn at regular intervals, suggesting that the map operates according to some unknown mechanical rhythm. Some theories posit that the map functions as a kind of timepiece, capable of recording and reflecting the passage of time itself. Could it be that the Clockwork Map is not merely a guide to a geographical landscape, but a map of a world that shifts and changes, driven by forces that are beyond our current understanding? Could it be a depiction of a place that exists on a different plane of existence, or even a world that exists in a parallel timeline? In the pursuit of answers, many have attempted to draw connections between the Clockwork Map and other mysterious objects in history. Some have linked it to the so-called Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device believed to be an astronomical calculator, suggesting that the map may be a more advanced form of this technology, one that records not just celestial events but entire worlds, perhaps on a cosmic scale. Others have noted similarities between the map's intricate gears and the designs found in alchemical manuscripts, where complex machinery was often thought to hold the key to unlocking hidden knowledge. But as researchers have studied the Clockwork Map, they have also encountered an unsettling truth. The more they attempt to unravel its secrets, the more elusive it becomes. The shifting continents and changing symbols defy the ability to track its movements with precision. Attempts to photograph or document the map's transformations have failed, with the images often appearing distorted or incomplete. Some even claim that the map resists being examined under certain conditions, as if it has a consciousness of its own, a will to remain hidden. As intriguing as the Clockwork Map is, it also invites more questions than answers. Who created this object and why? Was it intended as a tool of navigation, or perhaps as something more? Something designed to chart not just the physical world, but the unseen forces that govern it. What kind of civilization could have created such an artifact, one with an understanding of mechanics, geography, and perhaps even time itself, that far exceeds our own? In the absence of concrete answers, the Clockwork Map stands as a testament to the mysteries that still lie hidden in the folds of history. Its very existence challenges the boundaries of what we believe is possible, suggesting that there are truths yet to be uncovered, truths that may forever remain out of reach. And so, the Clockwork Map of Nowhere remains, as it always has, a riddle wrapped in a puzzle, a key to a door that may never fully open. What it reveals and what it conceals is a mystery that will continue to perplex those who dare to study it. As we continue our journey through the strange corners of lost history, we now encounter an object that has captivated scholars, cryptographers, and historians for centuries. It is a book, a seemingly ordinary artifact, yet it harbors a mystery that no one has been able to unravel. Known simply as the book that nobody can read, it is a volume that has defied all attempts at translation, interpretation, and understanding. Its very existence raises questions about the limits of human knowledge, and its pages, covered in a script unlike any language known to man, offer no clear answers, only more questions. This book, bound in a leather so ancient it seems to have aged with time itself, is not only mysterious in its content, but in its very origins. No one knows exactly where it came from or when it was written. Some believe it was created by an ancient civilization lost to history. Others think it may be the product of an obscure sect or group whose knowledge has long since vanished from the record. What is clear is that it has eluded interpretation, no matter how many scholars, linguists, or cryptographers have attempted to unlock its meaning. The first known reference to the book that nobody can read dates back to the late 17th century, when it was discovered in the private collection of an aristocrat who had amassed a vast library of rare and unusual texts. The book was noted for its peculiar writing, with characters that resembled neither any modern alphabet nor any ancient script. The pages, yellowed with age, were filled with seemingly random symbols, patterns, and diagrams. Yet the overall structure suggested a language, a system, a message that had been carefully composed. From the moment the book was revealed to the public, it sparked intense curiosity. Linguists, scholars, and even amateur cryptographers attempted to decipher its contents, but all efforts proved fruitless. Even the most advanced techniques of the time, including comparative analysis with known ancient languages, failed to produce any meaningful results. The characters of the book did not match anything found in the historical record. They were unique, appearing as if drawn from some other world, one that did not follow the rules of language as we know them. Despite centuries of study, no one has managed to read a single page with full certainty. The script remains stubbornly incomprehensible. Even the most gifted minds, those capable of deciphering other complex languages and codes, have been stumped by the book's contents. Some have proposed that the language is symbolic, representing concepts rather than words, while others suggest that the book is a coded work, filled with hidden meanings that only certain individuals or groups could understand. Yet, for all the theories, none have managed to reveal the key to its mysterious script. One of the most intriguing aspects of the book is its elaborate, almost ritualistic nature. The symbols are not simply a form of written language, but appear to be interconnected in ways that suggest a deeper structure. Diagrams, for instance, are often arranged in circular patterns, with lines and arrows that converge in the center. This visual arrangement leads some researchers to believe that the book may not be intended to be read in the traditional sense, but rather interpreted through a series of steps, perhaps involving meditation, ritual, or even some kind of technological tool that hasn't yet been discovered. Others theorize that the book may be part of a lost tradition of knowledge, a kind of memory palace, where each symbol or diagram might represent an idea or concept that is meant to be internalized rather than decoded in the conventional manner. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the book seems to possess a strange power, one that is more than just intellectual fascination. Those who have spent prolonged periods studying its pages have reported a sense of unease, a feeling that they are being drawn into something much larger and more mysterious than a mere puzzle. Some say the book exudes an energy, almost as if it is alive, pulsing with hidden knowledge that is waiting to be understood. Some scholars have even claimed to experience vivid dreams or visions after spending long hours with the text, though whether these are the result of intense mental strain or something more inexplicable remains unknown. As curious as these experiences may be, the lack of a concrete explanation for the book's origins and purpose only deepens the mystery. Where did it come from? Who wrote it? And why does it remain so impervious to understanding? Could it be that the knowledge contained within its pages is too advanced for our current understanding, a kind of lost wisdom that humanity is not yet capable of grasping? Or is it possible that the book was designed specifically to be unreadable, its contents meant to remain hidden, sealed away from human eyes for a reason. There have been attempts to place the book in context by comparing it to other obscure texts throughout history, texts that have been similarly enigmatic or coded. Some have pointed to the Voynich manuscript, another work that has confounded scholars for centuries, claiming that the two texts share certain similarities in their strange, unrecognizable scripts. Yet, the Voynich manuscript is at least thought to contain a message, albeit one that remains elusive. The book that nobody can read, on the other hand, seems almost entirely resistant to any interpretation, as if it exists in a realm apart from known languages and even human cognition itself. One speculative theory that has been suggested is that the book may be a form of alien communication, an attempt by an advanced civilization, not of this Earth, to make contact with humanity. The symbols in this case could be seen as part of a larger interstellar code, one that might only become understandable once we have developed the necessary tools or knowledge to decode it. This theory remains highly speculative, but it taps into a deep-seated desire to believe that the book is a message from the cosmos, a gift of knowledge waiting for the right moment to be unlocked. And then there are those who suggest that the book's unreadability is intentional, a deliberate creation meant to preserve knowledge from a lost civilization or to conceal dark secrets that were never meant to be known. Could it be that the book contains forbidden knowledge, or perhaps a warning from an ancient society that wished to protect future generations from the dangers of the knowledge contained within? The truth, as with so many mysteries of the past, remains out of reach. Yet, the very existence of the book that nobody can read invites us to consider the limits of human understanding. Are there truths that we are simply not ready to comprehend? Or is the key to unlocking the book's secrets waiting for someone or something yet to be discovered? What if the answer is not buried in ancient history but lies just beyond our grasp, hidden in plain sight? The book continues to elude those who seek to decipher it, standing as a testament to the unknown, a riddle that may never be solved, yet beckons us to look closer, to search further, and to wonder. As we step deeper into the unknown realms of history, we find ourselves journeying into the heart of a dense, ancient forest. The canopy above is thick with intertwining branches, casting shadows across the forest floor. The air is cool, the silence only broken by the occasional rustle of leaves. There's a sense of quiet timelessness here, as if the land itself holds secrets that stretch far beyond the reaches of modern memory. Among the whispering trees, there once lived a group of people whose name has almost disappeared from history. These are the forest people who drew stars, an enigmatic culture that thousands of years ago left behind a trail of symbols and celestial maps, some of which still defy explanation. The history of these forest dwellers is mostly forgotten, their story largely obscured by the passage of time. Little is known about who they were, where they came from, or what became of them. Yet, scattered across the forests of Europe, Africa, and Asia are remnants of their presence. Carvings, paintings, and intricate drawings that depict not just the trees and animals of their world, but the stars themselves. These mysterious star maps, etched into the very bark of ancient trees and painted on the walls of caves, offer glimpses into a forgotten worldview, a view that saw the heavens not as distant and unreachable, but as intimately connected to the lives of those who lived beneath them. At first glance, these star maps may appear like primitive doodles, crude representations of constellations, but the more we study them, the more we realize their complexity. These markings are not random, nor are they just representations of the night sky. The constellations they depict often don't correspond to any known star patterns. Instead, they show arrangements of stars that, in some cases, don't appear to have existed at all in the time period when the maps were created. Could it be that these ancient people were charting a sky that has since changed, or perhaps a sky that was never quite the same as the one we see today? What makes the forest people who drew stars so fascinating is not just their celestial maps, but the broader context of their culture. They lived in a time long before the advent of writing or advanced astronomy, yet their art and symbols demonstrate a deep understanding of the night sky. This raises several questions. How could they have known to map out constellations with such precision, and what did these celestial patterns mean to them? Were the stars simply a source of wonder, or did they play a more integral role in the culture of the forest people? One of the most compelling aspects of their star maps is the way they appear to encode meaning beyond mere navigation. In some instances, the positions of the stars on these ancient maps align with certain ritual sites, suggesting that the forest people may have used the stars as a kind of cosmic guide, leading them to sacred places or marking important events in their calendars. The presence of certain symbols alongside these star maps further suggests a spiritual or religious significance, with the celestial arrangements acting as a bridge between the earthly realm and the heavens above. But the mystery deepens when we look at the accuracy of these star maps. Some of the most notable examples, like those found in the dense forests of the Amazon, reveal star patterns that seem to mirror constellations as they would appear thousands of years ago. The details are so precise that modern-day astronomers have been baffled. How could people, without the aid of telescopes or advanced instruments, have created such an accurate representation of the stars? Did they possess a form of ancient knowledge lost to time? Or could they have had access to some other unknown source of wisdom, perhaps passed down by an earlier, more advanced civilization? Even more intriguing are the stories told by local tribes, whose oral histories include references to star beings or celestial visitors. These tales often speak of beings from the stars who descended to the earth, teaching the forest people the ways of the heavens and guiding them in their star-based rituals. These stories, passed down through generations, suggest that the stars were not merely distant points of light, but were deeply interwoven with the lives of these ancient people. Some scholars have speculated that the forest people may have had access to lost or forgotten knowledge from early human civilizations, perhaps even predating the great empires of Mesopotamia and Egypt. If this is the case, the forest people who drew stars may have been part of a much larger, interconnected world of ancient cultures, all of whom shared a knowledge of the stars and the cosmos. But if such a global network of early astronomical knowledge did exist, why has it remained largely lost to history? And why, despite numerous attempts, has no clear connection between these scattered star maps been made? This brings us to one of the more fringe theories surrounding the forest people who drew stars. Some suggest that these people were not merely observing the stars in the conventional sense, but were somehow interacting with them, perhaps through ritual or even through some form of astral projection. Could the stars themselves have been seen as spiritual beings, with the forest people attempting to communicate with them through their maps and symbols? Were these star maps more than just guides to the night sky, but instructions for contacting or invoking celestial forces? While such ideas may sound fantastical, they have not been entirely dismissed by some researchers, who argue that we may be too quick to assume that ancient peoples saw the universe in the same way we do. As the sun sets over the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the ocean, there lies a forgotten mystery, a tale of an island that seemed destined to disappear twice, from the pages of history and the vast stretches of the sea. The story of the island that sank twice is one that has lingered at the edge of our collective memory, whispered in maritime legends, and recorded only in the cryptic accounts of sailors and explorers who were fortunate, or unfortunate, enough to witness it firsthand. Imagine a remote island, once teeming with life, its shores lined with white sand beaches, and its forests lush with verdant trees. The island appeared on early maps, tucked away in the vast expanse of the Pacific, a place of mystery and promise. But over time it began to slip from view, fading from the charts and vanishing from the stories of those who once knew it. Its name, if it ever had one, was lost, as were its inhabitants. And yet, strangely, the island would reappear, only to be swallowed once again by the ocean, its disappearance marking the second time in its history that it seemingly sank beneath the waves. The first recorded account of the island comes from a group of sailors in the 16th century. Their ship, caught in a violent storm, sought refuge near what they described as a lush, uncharted landmass. As they approached, they saw what they took to be a peaceful and prosperous place. But within hours of their arrival, the island seemed to shudder, its ground trembling beneath their feet, the sea rising as if responding to some unseen force. It was as if the very earth itself had been unsettled by the presence of outsiders. The sailors, gripped by a mix of awe and fear, hurriedly left, sailing away before they could fully comprehend what had just occurred. But their brief encounter with the island was not the end. The next mention of the island came decades later, during an expedition by another group of explorers. They found no trace of the lush paradise described by the sailors who had arrived before them. Instead, all they encountered was a barren, rocky landscape. Where once there had been verdant vegetation and fresh water, now there was nothing but a desolate, windswept isle, its shores eaten away by the relentless tide. It was as if the island had vanished, swallowed up by the sea without a trace. Then, after more than a century of silence, another ship arrived at the coordinates where the island had once been. This time, however, the island was there. But something was different. The sailors who disembarked to explore the land found it eerily quiet, and what they saw didn't seem to match the maps they had studied. There were no signs of human habitation, yet the island seemed to bear evidence of civilization, strange ruins, carvings in the stone that were indecipherable, and artifacts that suggested some culture had once lived there, only to leave in haste, or perhaps be swept away by some catastrophic event. The strange occurrence of the island resurfacing after being believed lost for so long only deepened the enigma. Was it possible that the island had somehow risen from the ocean once again, defying the laws of nature? Or had the sailors simply misinterpreted the shifting tides, unaware of the island's true location? Perhaps the most perplexing of all is the second sinking, which occurred at the end of the 19th century. Several ships passing through the area reported seeing the island, once again alive and vibrant with vegetation, suddenly disappear beneath the water, as if it had simply sunk into the depths in a matter of hours. No storm had been detected, no earthquake recorded. The sea was calm, and yet the island was gone, as though it had never existed at all. After the second disappearance, no further sightings were recorded. The island had become a ghost of the sea, a myth that no one could prove or disprove. Theories abound as to what may have happened to the island. Some have speculated that the island existed on an unstable tectonic plate, prone to sinking or rising depending on the shifts in the Earth's crust. Perhaps a series of natural events, volcanic activity, seismic tremors, or underwater shifts in the Earth, could have caused the island to periodically rise above the ocean's surface, only to eventually sink again. Yet, no evidence of such tectonic activity has ever been found in the region, casting doubt on this explanation. Another theory suggests that the island could have been located in an area of the ocean known for its peculiar tides and currents, regions where large portions of the ocean floor rise and fall in a way that can swallow up entire land masses. In such areas, islands can sometimes vanish without a trace, only to return when the underwater plates shift once again. However, this still doesn't account for the island's reappearance and disappearance in such specific, almost cyclical intervals. Could there have been something else at work here? A more speculative theory involves the idea of lost civilizations, cultures that once thrived on the island, perhaps even harnessing advanced technology or knowledge that we have yet to fully understand. Some even suggest the island could be the remnants of an ancient structure, built upon by civilizations long forgotten. The strange artifacts, the carvings, and the sudden appearances and disappearances of the island may point to a history much older than we are capable of comprehending. What if this island held the secrets to a lost civilization, or perhaps a gateway to something beyond our understanding? And yet, despite these theories, the island's true nature remains elusive. Was it simply a natural formation that defied the laws of geography, or was it a place of ancient significance, with secrets buried beneath its surface? Secrets that are now lost to time and the depths of the sea. Was the island's appearance a sign of something more extraordinary, or was it merely a trick of nature that we are still unable to explain? The mystery of the island that sank twice continues to haunt us, leaving us with more questions than answers. Each account, each theory, deepens the puzzle but never fully solves it. Could the island's story be one of ancient knowledge, long hidden beneath the waves? Or are we simply witnessing the workings of nature in a way we cannot yet comprehend? For now, we are left with only fragments of a story that seems as though it was meant to remain forgotten, perhaps for reasons we will never fully understand. And as the waves continue to crash against the shore, the island's secrets remain, waiting beneath the water, lost to the ages. And so, as the tides swallowed the last trace of the island that vanished twice, we're left again with that quiet, lingering sense that not everything lost to history has stayed silent. Some stories ripple forward, not as echoes, but as enigmas, waiting to be remembered. As our journey continues inland, away from the sea's consuming depths, we find ourselves in a city that once thrummed with life, and then curiously with something else. A rhythm, a pulse, a contagion, not of fever or sores, but of motion. This is the story of the plague that danced. It began in the summer of 1518 in the narrow, cobbled streets of Strasbourg, then a flourishing city within the Holy Roman Empire. The air hung thick with heat. Crops were faltering, bread was scarce, and a deep anxiety gripped the townspeople. It was in this atmosphere of tension and fatigue that a single woman stepped into the street and began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, no partner urging her to join. She simply danced, arms flailing, feet shuffling, a trance-like determination in her movements. She did not stop for hours, then days. Her shoes wore down, her limbs bruised. Still, she danced. And then others joined her. Within a week, more than 30 people were caught in the same inexplicable compulsion. They danced until their bodies gave out, some collapsing from exhaustion, others said to have danced themselves to death. Within a month, the number had risen into the hundreds. Physicians were baffled. Clergy grew fearful. The city, so used to the calculated rhythms of market bells and church chimes, now pulsed with the feverish, unpredictable beat of human motion. Today, historians refer to it as the Dancing Plague of 1518. It remains one of the most peculiar and unsettling phenomena recorded in pre-modern Europe, and while it's often recounted with a hint of disbelief or dark curiosity, For those who witnessed it, there was no doubt. Something had taken hold of their neighbors. Something powerful, terrifying, and utterly beyond comprehension. What caused this bizarre outbreak of uncontrollable movement? One of the earliest theories came from the city's own physicians, who ruled out supernatural causes, and instead blamed the event on hot blood, a kind of fever in the humors of the body, worsened by the summer heat and perhaps by melancholy or stress. Their prescribed cure? More dancing. A guild hall was cleared. Musicians were hired. The afflicted were even led to dance on constructed stages, in the hopes that the energy would burn itself out. It didn't. The suffering deepened. Modern scholars have floated more medical explanations. Some suggest ergot poisoning, caused by a mold that grows on damp rye and can induce hallucinations, muscle spasms, and delirium. Ergot, interestingly, contains compounds similar to LSD, but critics argue that such poisoning tends to produce convulsions, not synchronized dancing, let alone in such numbers. And if the bread was tainted, why didn't everyone eating from the same supply show similar symptoms? Others propose mass hysteria, now more formally termed mass psychogenic illness. In this interpretation, the dancing was a psychological response to the immense collective stress of the time. Famine, disease, spiritual fear. In an age where divine wrath and demonic possession were deeply woven into cultural understanding, might a community have unconsciously manifested its suffering through the body? Could the dancing have been a kind of unconscious performance, a scream made with limbs instead of voices? Yet, even mass psychogenic illness doesn't explain everything. The duration, weeks, not hours, is hard to reconcile with what we know about psychological episodes. The physical endurance shown by many dancers bordered on superhuman. Some witnesses described participants who danced with bloodied feet, unresponsive to their surroundings, their eyes vacant. Were they in pain, in ecstasy, or somewhere in between? There are even stranger theories. Some fringe researchers suggest that the dancers may have been part of a now forgotten ritual or cult practice, accidentally or deliberately revived in a moment of communal vulnerability. Others, more esoteric still, wonder whether the phenomenon hints at something deeper, something more elemental in human beings. Is there, perhaps, a rhythm buried in the human mind or body, ancient and instinctual, that can be awakened under the right conditions? Across cultures, dance has always held a dual identity: celebration and trance, performance and possession. In the temples of India, in the circle dances of the Balkans, in the shamanic rituals of Siberia, movement has long been a bridge between worlds. Might the people of Strasbourg have crossed such a bridge without knowing it? And this wasn't an isolated case. Earlier records, scattered across medieval Europe, speak of similar outbreaks, though none as large or as well documented. In 1374, a comparable affliction swept through towns along the Rhine River, with participants leaping, convulsing, crying out to the heavens as they danced through the streets. Monks wrote of people gripped by invisible forces, dancing until they collapsed in churchyards or floated lifeless in city fountains. Were these separate events, or were they echoes, reverberations of something older, more persistent? Some have even drawn connections to ancient rites like the Bacchanalia, where frenzied dancing was used to achieve states of spiritual communion. Have we forgotten something essential about ourselves? Or did the people of 1518 tap into something they were never meant to find? Today, there are no remains to study, no blood samples, no artifacts. Just words on vellum. Chroniclers recording, often with shaky pens, the confusion and horror they could not explain. The streets of modern Strasbourg give no hint of the fevered chaos that once overtook them. Tourists walk where dancers once collapsed. Markets thrive where stages for afflicted feet were built. But sometimes, if you listen closely in the quieter corners of old cities, you can almost hear it. The whisper of feet on stone, the echo of a rhythm not born of music, but of something else, something older. And so we ask, what truly stirred the bodies of those who danced without reason or rest? Was it a poison, a madness, or was it, in its own strange way, a kind of message, one we still don't understand? The plague that danced remains just that, a movement through time, slipping between history and mystery. A riddle written not in words, but in footsteps that once traced patterns across a city now still. And as we move onward, deeper into the shadows of forgotten truths, we are left to wonder, what else have we lost at time that once moved the world? As the echoes of ghostly rhythms from Strasbourg fade into stillness, we turn now to a far more distant and no less enigmatic stage, thousands of miles away in the remote expanse of the southeastern Pacific. Here, scattered across the windswept grasslands of Easter Island, ancient sentinels stand tall against the breath of time. They are known as moai, colossal stone statues carved by a lost civilization. With deep-set eyes and elongated faces, they gaze inland, as though contemplating a secret no one alive can remember. And among the many mysteries that cling to them, one stands above all. Did the statues walk? Not in metaphor, but in a literal sense. The island, known to its native inhabitants as Rapa Nui, rises from volcanic rock and ocean mist. Isolated from any other significant landmass by more than 1,000 miles in every direction, it is one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. Yet, between the 13th and 16th centuries, the Rapa Nui people carved and raised nearly 900 moai, some towering over 30 feet tall, weighing upwards of 80 tons. Without metal tools, draft animals, or modern technology, they managed to move these immense monoliths across rugged terrain, often from quarries miles away, and erect them on stone platforms, or ahu, near the coastlines. But how? This question has haunted archaeologists for generations. Early European explorers arriving in the 18th century found a people diminished, population decimated by disease, slave raids, and ecological collapse. The oral traditions that survived hinted at a time when the statues walked to their resting places. Some accounts described the moai moving with a mana, a spiritual force, powerful and sacred. These tales were long dismissed by Western scholars as metaphorical, or the poetic residue of a culture that had lost the practical knowledge of its past. And yet, the idea persisted. For many years, prevailing theories suggested the statues were hauled using ropes and wooden sleds or logs, methods that would have required immense labor, and perhaps led to the deforestation that ultimately devastated the island's fragile ecosystem. But this theory never quite accounted for the scale of the operation, nor did it fully align with local legends. Then, in the early 21st century, a team of researchers led by archaeologist Terry Hunt and anthropologist Carl Lipo proposed a radical idea. What if the moai didn't just move, they were walked? By replicating the traditional rope harnessing method and applying it to a carefully balanced replica of a moai, the team demonstrated that 3 groups, using coordinated force on either side and from behind, could rock the statue forward in a controlled, step-like motion. It swayed left, then right, inching forward like a giant waddling penguin. It was awkward, but it worked. Local elders who witnessed the experiment said, "That is how the ancestors did it." Was this what the ancient islanders meant by walking? A form of practical engineering cloaked in spiritual language? Or is there more beneath the surface? Curiously, the design of the moai themselves seems to support this theory. Many of the statues found en route to their final destinations have a center of gravity conducive to pivoting. Their wide bellies and curved bases suggest they were built with motion in mind. In fact, some of these abandoned moai might not have been forgotten at all, but rather halted mid-journey, frozen in place by forces we can only guess at. Still, the physical logistics are only part of the mystery. Why go to such extraordinary lengths to carve and transport these statues? What was the purpose behind these stone colossi, whose silent expressions seem at once solemn and eternal? The moai, it is believed, represented deified ancestors, protective spirits watching over the island. But why did they face inland, not toward the sea, as many assumed they would? Some theorists suggest the moai served as spiritual anchors, focusing communal energy or marking territory, while others believe they were part of a celestial calendar, aligned with solstices, star paths, or ocean currents. Still others propose that the moai were more than symbolic, that their construction and movement served ritualistic purposes designed to maintain the island's cosmic balance. And then there are stranger ideas. Some fringe researchers have speculated that the statues are remnants of a lost technology, tools not of stone worship, but of vibration, sound, or electromagnetic manipulation. Stories of megaliths moving with the beat of drums or the chanting of shamans are not unique to Rapa Nui. Similar myths exist in Egypt, in Tibet, and among the megalithic builders of the Andes. Could there have been a forgotten understanding, an ancient science lost to time that enabled people to move stone as if it weighed nothing? Others have turned to even more speculative ground, drawing connections between the moai and supposed visitors from beyond. The size of the heads, the elongated skulls seen in some carvings, the mysterious Rongorongo script, still undeciphered, that seems to whisper from the wooden tablets of the island. Do these elements hint at something beyond the known? Or are they merely the product of a rich and isolated culture, one that developed its own language, art, and myths in the middle of the sea? Regardless of the explanations we entertain, the mystery of the walking statues persists. The moai remain, steadfast and solemn, watching across an island whose secrets are layered like the volcanic rock from which they came. They do not speak, yet they seem to remember. And as the wind carries salt across their ancient faces, one cannot help but wonder, how many steps did they take? What stories are buried beneath their feet? Are the legends of walking stone merely symbolic recollections of ingenious engineering? Or is there a deeper truth, one that eludes our tools, our models, and our certainty? The moai have stood for centuries, silent, immovable, and yet they walked. Somehow, what else might still be moving, quietly, beneath the weight of time?